Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to episode 19 of Guns and Cameras. Let's get real for just a second here. You know, I was thinking it would really suck to be on the receiving end of one of the lead letters that we send via range mail on a regular basis. And our next guest, unfortunately, has been on the receiving end of many lead letters, but not just letters, also packages of all shapes and sizes. But thankfully, in his case, the majority of them have been improperly postmarked or labeled return to sender. All jokes aside, my friends, if you were to play a game of two truths and a lie with our next guest, you'd probably lose because his life has been just that crazy. So while I get back into sending some lead letters of my own, y'all enjoy one heck of an episode. Shooters, are you ready? Stand by. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Guns and Camera podcast. I'm your host, Joshua Best, and tonight we're joined with a very special guest. We have Mr. Ethan Nagel. Ethan is a filmmaker, director, photographer. He's also a former Marine Scout sniper. He's the owner and the host of the Into the Breach podcast, as well as the host of the Nine Line Apparel podcast. Ethan, thanks for being on the show with us tonight. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thanks, Josh, for having me on. Yeah, I am. I was Marine Corps way back in the day. It's getting wild that it'll be 20 years ago that I joined. It feels like it's yesterday. And yeah, I wanted to do filmmaking since I was a kid, but decided to go the route of the Marine Corps first because the wars were going on. So I ended up going to the Marine Corps infantry, did 3 deployments, scout sniper as well. And then third deployment, became a combat advisor, volunteered for that. And that's when I worked with a lot of special operations, got attached to special forces. And then got on some heavy stuff there and learned a lot and just, stuff that I wanted to go contract, kind of delay my route into filmmaking and a few more years to kind of decompress and go back into the sandbox and have a little more fun, make some money. And yeah, and then got my bachelor's degree while I was doing that overseas, and then ended up going to film school in 2014 here in Minneapolis, Minnesota. So that's kind of the abbreviated version of my journey so far.
Dude, right on. Well,
Yeah, man.
firstly, thank you for your service. I
Oh,
appreciate
no
it.
worries. It's all good.
Man, I do. Where do we even start? So, when did you first? So you've wanted to shoot movies and do film for a while, even before you went in and served. So,
Yeah, yep.
where did that love for storytelling start?
You know, we just grew up watching movies as a kid. Every time I would watch a film growing up, I wanted to be the main character or do what the main characters do in each one of those films. So, you know, you have the hero's journey and the hero, you know, all that stuff. And like, you know, you're looking up at these archetypes. So like, you know, John McClane was a cop. I wanted to be a cop because I thought I was going to be, you know, crawling through vents and stopping terrorists like every week, you know. And then Backdraft, even before that, Backdraft, you know, Kurt Russell and Ron Howard's film, and can't remember which Baldwin brother, but I was big into firefighting. Like I still remember now some of the memories of me, like, you know, holding the like plastic blocks or whatever and being like, I'm a firefighter, you know. And by the way, rewatched that film probably a few years ago, and it fucking bangs, and it holds up. And I was actually shocked how beautiful like the fire looked, you know. And it's all practical effects, so I think that probably had a impact on why I wanted to be a firefighter. But basically, we watched a lot of movies, and just, you know, it's just something that it was a part of our family. We weren't, you know, I think like most kids in the 90s, no one was really like rich back then or anything. Like we're all pretty poor. So, you know, and I feel like everyone's family started in lower class and then made their way up, you know, through the years. But yeah, we just had a VCR and whatnot. And we started getting DVDs my 7th grade year, which was like 1999. I'd saved my money up for PlayStation 2. And that's when I kind of opened my eyes to like DVD features, and that was really cool because you could only see those, like, you know, sometimes you'd run across a special on you know, basic television. Yeah, we only had 5 channels. My family was cheap. We never had cable until I was in high school, and even that was by mistake, you know, on accident. But Yeah, it was so seeing the behind the scenes of like it was Three Kings and The Matrix was our first DVDs, and it was like holy shit. And I remember seeing on VHS tapes advertisements for DVDs that you could buy, like The Mummy or something. It was like watch the behind the scenes, and obviously VHS didn't have that shit. It was just the movie
Yeah.
itself. So, yeah, we actually it was funny. I enjoy talking filmmaking with you because I go on a lot of veterans podcasts, and they ask me more about, which I'm totally fine with. Obviously, it's a big part of my life, my military service and shit. I was still a part of some of the wild stuff, but but honestly, my what really did it was we had an assignment. It was the end of my God, what was it? It's the end of my eighth grade year. It was like I think it was the end of my eighth grade year or like the last semester or whatever quarter. I don't know what the fuck we did, but it was like basically like I think it was like March or April,
Mm.
and I was like, well, I'm watching these DVD features, and one of the things was like. I can't remember. It was make a how-to assignment. That's what it was. So like our teacher gave us an assignment. It was like how to. So it was like, hey, how do you make lemonade? How do you? I don't know, whatever the fuck. I was like, I'm gonna do how do you make squibs, and it was like, yeah, man. And so I had like the Saving Private Ryan like double VHS set or whatever. So the
Yeah.
second VHS was actually like the making of Saving Private Ryan. And so you watch like the old like Steven Spielberg 16 millimeter, 8 millimeter films that he made and like how he made explosions. It was like the cheap way of doing it,
Yep.
which was like stick a board in the ground and they run across the board and you kick the board up in this dirt. And if you're like far enough away or the right angle, it looks like it's an explosion. You're not using black powder, gunpowder, or some shit.
Yep.
So yeah, and so my they were like do a how to, and so I did a how to. And by the way, this was even like editing software. We had got it. My parents had bought a high 8 analog camcorder, and I was like, oh my god, this is great. Let's shoot this sequence. So we shot this really crappy sequence and like how to make a squib or how to use it or
Hmm.
some weird crap like that. So, but that truly was like that was the absolute moment that I made it. It looked horrific. It was terrible. It would look way cooler in my mind, as all filmmakers are. We're like, it's going to be epic, and you make it, and you're like, this looks like shit. But it literally like triggered something in me like, right away, and it was this how-to video to making squibs, and I had to edit it on like on the high like camcorder, so I could then
Yeah.
show it to my class, and yeah, it was wild. And so we ended up and that was it. I was hooked. So I was 13, and so in 8th grade, and I kind of like found out too like I love movies. I love the archetypes. I love storytelling. I'm always, I think as filmmakers, you always think of yourself, you're the hero in your own film.
Hmm.
And so I was like, wow, film directors. And then because I already knew movies, like I already knew movies. I was like, oh yeah, Michael Bay directs this, and this and
Yeah.
that, and Ridley Scott and all this other stuff. So I kind of knew Steven Spielberg obviously was the big one, but you know, Steven Summers and all this other stuff, and you're like, oh, or Jerry Bruckheimer was the big one. I think I think he was more influential just because you knew his name from all the films he produced, even though he wasn't directing. But you knew if it was a Jerry Bruckheimer production, it was going to be fucking banging to go into the theater. So we, I knew that. From my time, I was like, okay, yeah, that's what I
Dude.
want to be a film director because I can make these films. So that was literally the moment that I knew I wanted to be a film director since I was 13, and then ever since then, man, like going into my freshman year of high school, 9/11 happened,
Hmm.
but it didn't really quite click, not until it would have been my sophomore year that we invaded Iraq that I was truly like, oh man, like maybe this whole Marine thing I want to do is going to come to fruition. Like I want to go to war. I want to prove myself, in the warrior class, within the hero archetypes, and all this other
Yep.
stuff that you watch in film and rise into the occasion, and also watching like World War II films, like I was like, can I do what they did? That was my thing. So, wondering if I could do what the previous generations had done in combat, and watching Vietnam films as well, Platoon and whatnot. So basically, Jerry Bruckheimer Productions, like you knew his name the most
Hmm.
out of all the films that were coming out in the era, and they were all bangers, and so John Woo and the director is Michael Bay, John Woo. I was a big fan of Bad Boys, and Armageddon was in The Rock. I mean, those like three films, which all happened to be Michael Bay, were just like hugely influential on me. And so, I knew James Cameron. Everyone knows Spielberg, but basically, I found out if I wanted to do this, like make movies, like make things that I just made, like I did for class, like that's what you do. You're a film director. And I was
Yeah.
like, I'm hooked. It truly has been. Like I consider myself insanely fortunate to know what I wanted to do since I was 13, and always had like, this is what I'm going to do, come hell or high water.
Yeah.
And yeah, so through high school, man, like yeah, I always kind of take a lot of those films to heart. Like even if it's like, you know, sappy teen movies or something, like I was always like, hey man, like don't be a dick, don't be the bully. If you're not smart, then work harder to be smarter. It's always good to be the strong one in the room, but also be humble, and also be you're not going to be the smartest. If you're the strongest, you're not going to be the fucking smartest, but ask for help, do what you can to like get good grades as best as you can, and like you kind of like have those archetypes within teen films, or whatever. So trying to be the best person that you can be. But yeah, I mean, I was hooked, man. And so going through high school, I was building my own computers to then do capture cards. Back then it was capture. So you had to link up the high 8 analog to the computer and then let it run. I don't know how old are you? Would you
I'm
live in?
35. I'm 35.
Oh, okay, cool. So I'm only 2 years older. So
Yeah.
you were in that era at least, or I don't know when you started, but you at least can kind of remember that era.
Yeah.
And I couldn't capture sound, by the way. And to this day, I think that was influential on me, because I had to tell stories with my crappy short stories that I would make. You had to do it without sound. So I think my montage capabilities, or my editing was so much fun, because that's where you really made the film. Because
Yeah.
I'd shot stuff like in 8th grade, but it doesn't matter if you can't edit it. Like nothing matters if you go shoot something you can't edit, or you just can't put it on a timeline and create a project out of it. It means nothing,
Yeah.
And so I learned that from a very young age. Like, well, I don't have sound, and editing is where I can put music to it. I can add drama. I can add these really crappy flare effects that were in Adobe Premiere. Not even Adobe Premiere Pro. It was a pirated version of Premiere. And my Premiere Pro was pirated. My buddy pirated. I had no idea how to like. He was a big computer nerd, so I didn't know how to do that shit. But he got me a copy, and we made movies, and we were small. We were a pretty small class, and so we were all pretty close and whatnot. But anyway, so throughout high school, and then upgrading that to high digital, which was awesome, because now I could capture sound through through Firewire. I think it was like Firewire 1.0 or something like that.
Dude, throwback, man.
Yeah, throwbacks, dude. Yeah, and
So
you'd
cool.
have to copy it. It was still like you still had to run it back, or press play, but it was at least being copied digitally and natively through into the computer, and
Yeah.
it was awesome. It was like, oh my god, like dude. So, I kind of sometimes I haven't gone back. My parents actually I was such an idiot. I had a computer after my first deployment, and my parents had it since I got out in 2009. And then they basically backed up that desktop, and some of the other stuff, there's my old no shit, like almost all my projects from high school on there. And we made a DVD my senior year. We put a
Yeah.
compilation of a bunch of these projects we had made through the years, and then like a final send off video for my senior class. We made a documentary about how we made shit, dude. It was like we knew how to make DVDs, so we made DVD menus. It was like they weren't bad.
Dude.
My buddy was actually pretty good at Photoshop, so like he gave me some of the images. Like we could click through, and we did DVD commentaries. It was fucking wild. Like we did DVD commentaries, which I think is a precursor to podcasting, by the way. Like it was
Oh
so much fun. Like, and anyways, so yeah, man, we did that throughout high school, and that was just, and I wanted to, I checked out USC Film School my junior year, and was not impressed. Also checked out SDSU. I was more impressed with their program, but I was already kind of set on the Marine Corps by that point, and to accomplish that goal. But it also just didn't appeal to me. Like, and I hate to say it, I shouldn't say I hate to say it, but like Hollywood, as much as I want to make $100 million films, and I still have that, goal hanging above me, and I think a lot of guys do, but it is what it is. But I never at any point was like, you know what I need to do? I need to go move to LA. Like, I've never been a guy to do
Yo.
I've never thought that. In fact, I think the opposite. Like, even back in the mid 2000s, I was like, I got to figure out how to make it, quote unquote, make it without going to LA. Because, even in the, it just didn't seem, it wasn't, I don't know. It seems fun from a distance, but it never appealed to me to be like, you know what, I really want to go. It seems sad and depressing. And I actually had Carrie Kite on my last podcast, or two podcasts ago, and he
Yeah.
did that. He's a fellow veteran, same age, and he went to, I think, Full Sail, and then went to in like after 2010s, I think he went to LA. And he says it, man, like it's in my podcast. He in Into the Breach, episode 4 or 5, or 4, and he was like, it's depressing. It's super fucking depressing. You're barely scraping by. Everyone's there to do the same thing. It's just like
Yeah.
nasty. It's just a super depressing time, and everyone's trying to be the next fucking Tom Cruise or Spielberg, and nobody's original. It's just like, yeah, man, and it's just like, especially if you're like trying to work. And that was my thing too, is like, I remember being like, look, I want to work and make money.
Yeah.
And so it was, I don't know, it just never appealed to me to be like, oh, I'm gonna be and I know you got to cut your teeth in some places, but I was like, I don't want to be a fucking PA and being treated like shit. Everyone's like, well, you got to work, you got to start somewhere. I was like, yeah, but not as a fucking bootlicker.
Yeah.
Just being treated like asshole by a fucking, a celebrity. And so it just never was my thing. So I think that was my big try to problem solve before, when I was
You,
younger, was like,
you,
how do
you and
I,
me both. You and me
yeah,
both.
yeah, yeah. So what I'm saying is like, yeah, it's hard, and I think it's just one of those things where, anyway. So I was never gonna find myself go, and luckily, I think, I always say fate plays its cards, and timing as well, and I remember being in films, or being in the Marine Corps, and my heart was always set on. In fact, the only time I did consider thinking about going to LA was, I was gonna go, but it was gonna be years. I had, after my second deployment, I declared myself out of the Scout Sniper platoon. I was gonna get out, chasing my ex girlfriend from high school off and on,
Mhm.
or whatever. I was like, and she was getting out of college, and I was like, hey, I'm gonna go to Art Institute, which is now defunct, and I'm gonna do become a visual effects artist, graphic. I think it was like graphic motion and something,
Yeah.
and
Motion
they were,
graphic artist or whatever.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was basically 3D animation and
Yeah.
CGI, that was big. Obviously, it still is big, but like, it was really big at the time, and I mean, it still is huge, but it was definitely like really escalating, because all the films were doing way more visual effects than like they should, and so I was like, hey, that's a 4-year program. I got this new GI Bill, the post 9/11 GI Bill had just come out that year. I was like, I'm gonna go to college for 4 years at the Art Institute in Minnesota, and be back home with my friends, and we weren't in together, but I was like, oh, my high school sweetheart, all this other shit, blah blah blah, and I'll do that, and then I'll go to LA, but with a skill. I was like, I can make a bunch of money as a visual effects artist, and I can't remember the director's name, but he was a visual effects artist. He directed like, oh man, what's his name? Brendan Fraser was in a Journey to the Center of the Earth. It came out in like 2008,
Oh
and
man.
the
Yeah.
director, I think he's directed like 2 films, or I don't know. Again, this is years ago, but he, in the commentary, DVD commentary, he was like, I was a visual effects supervisor, an artist supervisor, and then they were like, you can direct movies, and I was like, that's a way to do it, because then I know I have a job. I know I can get in with a skill, so I'm not being treated like shit, at a very important skill at that, and then I can learn filmmaking, and then I can kind of like make my own films on my own with visual effects and whatever. So I actually applied for the school, got in, and then I was in the process of getting some financial aid. They have like active duty financial aid, so I didn't
Mhm.
have to tap into my GI Bill. And then I don't know. I just like had I had heard about Afghanistan popping off, and I was like, man, I want to go get some more action. So I ended up volunteering for a third deployment, and that changed my life drastically in really good ways, and I guess you would say in good ways, but um, and I ended up doing the contractor route, and working with special operations, and then I ended up working with CIA Static and Department of Whips Mobile, and doing all that kind of stuff, and then kind of was like a decompression. Also, gonna live my life a little bit before I kind of jump into the career that I've been wanting to do since I was 13. So yeah, man, I came back in 2013, had a bunch of money in my bank account. I had a bachelor's degree that I'd gotten because my mom was like, hey, just get a bachelor's degree, just for a fucking check in the box,
Yeah.
and I was like, yeah, yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of debate with that. I debate my wife all the time because we set up, college funds for our kid, and I'm like, you wipe their fucking ass with it, it might as well, by the time they're 18, I don't even know if it's gonna be worth it. And anyway, but I was like, back then it was like, hey, this just gets me in the door, and I have a bachelor's, and I was deploying and had enough time to get myself a degree. But I had finally happened to find, Minneapolis Community and Technical College, MCTC. Now
Hmm.
it's called Minneapolis College, but it was downtown Minneapolis, and it's very well renowned within the Midwest community. It was very well known in like the '90s and 2000s. It's a real down and dirty technical college. I have an Associates of Science in Cinematography,
Nice.
and so, dude, I kept Googling shit for years, being like Minneapolis Film School. Nothing would ever come up. It was always like MCAD, which is, Minneapolis College of Art and Design, or some fucking art school. And, it wasn't, they weren't doing what you would think. It was like, oh, yeah, 2 years of your gen eds and then 2 years of your specialty. And it was like, whatever. It wasn't impressive. It really wasn't worth the time or the money.
Mm.
And then this thing popped up somehow, and so I went and I checked it out, and my who would then become my professor, he was got came and did a walkthrough, and I was like, yeah, I was like, I've been Googling for years, like Minneapolis film schools, and this is the first time it's popped up. He goes, yeah, yeah, the website design people are finally doing their job, and you can tell he was like a bitter, realist filmmaker. It was awesome, and
Well,
he was
he probably had to fight the university forever to get them to fix the website for
oh
him.
yeah, yeah,
University
and
politics and stuff.
yeah, and on top of that, this is like it's a public college, or
Yeah.
a tech school. So, he's from the '90s era of like when Minneapolis was like banging. Like,
Hmm.
we actually had some really good film rebates and production houses coming through and productions, and he was on some of those. And then, there's a lot of work coming in on that scale, and then it all dried up, and there's
Hmm.
still good work here, but I'm not really in the Minnesota community. All my clients are out of network. They're across the country and a bunch of other crazy stuff that I do. But yeah, so anyways, yeah, and I was talking with him, and I was like, well, I want to be a film director. And I told him, I said, I want to know how to make films, and he looked at me and he said, you know what, this is what you need to do. Then you need to become a cinematographer. And I was like, oh, cool. And me again, like, I know tons about movies, but you don't know what you don't know. And I'm like, oh, well, who's the
Hmm.
cinematographer? I'd seen, the cinematographer. I know the, term, but you never quite know unless someone tells you. And so he was like, well, they're the guys that they know how to light, they know how to use the cameras, they know the technical side to make how the film looks. He
Hmm.
goes, you can direct anytime. He goes, people direct all the time. They don't know they don't know the equipment, but you want to know how to make the film so you can direct it. I said, yeah, that's what I want to do. He goes, then become a cinematographer. And he's a cinematographer. He was the professor for cinematography. And
Cool.
so I was like, yeah, man, sign me up. So I signed up for that. Literally within a month, I was, I had the GI Bill. So I jumped on the summer courses. I had nothing to do, and started taking full-time courses for the next 2 years. And dude, it was but some of the best 2 years of my life. It was awesome. It was so much fun, and really was a good time and period in my life, I guess you would say, for going into combat zones. I'd done, I think 7 to 8 deployments or rotations into Afghanistan or Pakistan or Iraq, and it was a good chill out period. I got the Purple Heart, Silver Star. My last firefight at that point was less than a year prior to that. And kind of readjusting. So the film school was amazing because like I had a bunch of money in my pocket. I was getting GI Bill money. I was in the National Guard. I had joined the Guard after I had gotten back. So I was, you're not making a ton of money, but it's an extra $400 beer drinking,
Yeah, yeah.
$400 in your pocket, and then the GI Bill and then I'd like 70, 80 grand saved up, from contracting in my bank account. And as a good young infantry and young man does, you don't save it or do good shit with it. You just let it dwindle out, party it, and chasing girls. So, but I don't regret it. It's a good time, and but yeah, it was a blast. It was 2 years. It was amazing. Like it was great for that period of my life. It was a good decompression. My life slowed down finally. Like it felt like it slowed down. Like I could enjoy the moment. I could, I was pretty self-aware. I was like, hey, enjoy this. Time seemed to like really crawl, which is
Yeah.
like what I needed. And it was awesome, dude. I'd just go to the gym, I'd go to class, and then I'd watch movies like all fucking day long, they taught me how to write scripts, like properly how to write scripts.
Dude.
And so I'm just writing scripts, and I was a creative writer in high school, so like I could do okay, like I consider myself an okay good writer. I don't consider myself a screenwriter, but I can like get something across if I have to like I've written a few scripts, but it's like I want to direct this, but you could get someone that's better than me to actually write the script. Like I'm just trying to get it off the ground so I could maybe sell it, but yeah, it was awesome. It was phenomenal, and this film school had it was an amazing program, and you got out what you put in, and I was putting in so much. I mean, I'd go and we could rent the equipment out, and it was free because it was
Yeah.
on dude, we had some of the first LED lights. We had like an HMI LED Eco Punch. And then they
Nice.
had a bunch of tungsten lights, older, that would blow breakers and shit, like HMIs. And as a cinematographer, dude, I was like, and they had a haze machine, so I was like, dude, fucking haze for days, And
Mhm.
that was our me. And you find the people that really want to make it work. You have the art house kids, that are there, wanting to talk about film, where they want to do their avant-garde bullshit or whatever, which is fine, man. If you want to do it, go for it. But like then you would find like there was like me and like two other buddies of mine and a few others. Some people gravitated towards us because and even the avant-garde kids would come to us for fun. We go out drinking afterwards, or like I'd buy a few rounds. We go to like the Bulldog or whatever. Like it was a bar around the corner, and
Dude.
it was so much fun. But that was the thing though. I was a commercial guy. Like immediately found in like you kind of start figuring out which direction you want to go. And I'm like, look, man, Michael Bay, Ridley Scott, Ridley Scott did 2000 commercials. Like I want to be a commercial film director. I always say like commercial film director. Like I want to make money, I want to make it look awesome, but I also want to like really get the emotion in there. Really want to, do the epic stuff and whatever. And that's where I want to live. And I love other films, by the way, like Paul Thomas Anderson, and like my wife makes fun of me because she's always like, oh, you love all these action films. I was like, honestly, I'll sit down, and I'll watch There Will Be Blood, and I love that scene. He's just like, I'm an
Yeah.
oil man, and it just slowly
Yeah.
pushes that on for like fucking 1 minute. And I'm like, I don't know why. I love some of that stuff. I'm not saying I would make it, but I appreciate it so much. But yeah, so yeah, it was great, man. I met my wife when I was in film school. She wasn't a film student. She had a career and everything. So I met her on Tinder, and it was like, so it was a blast, man. Before all that, I was traveling. I was go backpacking and Central America, and then I'd go to Europe or like Ireland, and like I said, it was fun dating, chasing girls, partying, and then and it was movies. It was like movies. It was just like so much fun, and just to learn the tech. We had red cameras with cinema glass. We had Zeiss CP2s,
Dude.
and we're running like a red. It wasn't a red. I think it was a red Epic, and then we had a red one, and then we had a red Mysterium, and then we had 16 millimeter SR3s,
Hmm.
which, by the way, film sucks. So if anyone ever comes to you and be like, film's so much superior to digital imaging, I'm like, you've never held a film camera. There was one point I didn't have the money to rent it by that point because I had burned through a bunch of my money. But by the end of my last semester, they had about 100 or a few hundred feet of 35 millimeter film stock. And I asked my professor, I was like, hey, like, can we rent like the 35 mil from the local Cinequip shop, And he was going to try to do it. It just, the school didn't want to pay for it because
Yeah.
it was 2016, by the way. So this was like 15 into 16. And this was like, I'm sure remember that era. It was like, dude, the death of film, like Kodak shut down.
Dude, hard death of film, dude.
Yeah, hard. I mean, it was a hard death. Yeah, dude. There was one point. Is fun little fact. So like, I was like trying to see how I could make some money, and I didn't have any money at all. So I was like, you're always going on like rabbit holes. So like, I was looking at SR threes, or no, sorry, RE 416. I think it was RE 416, 16 millimeter. They shot like Walking Dead on it. It's 16 mil, but it's the more advanced version. It's high speed. It's got like the audio.
Yep.
And dude, these things go for like 70, 80 grand. eBay. So there was like a dip in the market. eBay was selling these fucking things for like 8 grand, 8 grand. And about
I
a year,
remember.
yeah. And about a year later, dude, they just went, you couldn't find them. And they just shot back up in value again. So there's a lull in time where digital, like the reds were insanely expensive. Like regular reds were like 70 grand. Obviously those one
Mm-hmm.
top tiers before they start dropping in price. Film cameras just crashed in price. So anyway, so it was this 35 millimeter stock, and it was going to take a ton of money to like, one, we had to process it, and then we had to digitize it. So I was, because I was like, dude, let's shoot like just do a setup, and like let's all get behind a 35 mil and like just fuck with it, and he was on board, but they just didn't have the money to rent the 35 millimeter camera. So I was kind of bummed out about that. But it wasn't like I was like, oh man, I really need to do this, because I was like, dude, fuck that. Like we were using I think it was SR1s or SR3s, and it was just like, they're so heavy, they're like, oh yeah, don't expose the film. So you're like fumble fucking in the blackout tent, and some people did some good stuff. Some people really enjoyed it. A few of our cinematographer projects, some of my fellow DPs were like, hey, I want to shoot on the film. I'm like, dude, go for it. But the way I shoot and we move fast, I want to see what exactly we're getting. And some of their projects look good. You're kind of like, all
Yeah.
right, like I get it, but it was just, and sometimes I'm like, man, that would be fun, but it's so much money to do. Yeah, it's not like a fun, like, oh, let's go and shoot like a few 35 millimeter stills. It's like, no,
No.
this is like a bunch of money. And we were required to shoot 16 mil. But again, these projects weren't crazy. It was like, hey, go out and shoot a bunch of shit, and then we'll process it, like kind of tell a story if you can, but
Yeah.
there's no audio either. And so they were just like, here's a film roll, like two things of film, go film. So we did 8 millimeter, and then we ended up doing this. The cinematographers did 16 mil. We had to do like 2 projects, and I actually have one. Somewhere on one of my hard drives, because I got digitized. It just doesn't, I don't know, and it's all about film stock, how you expose, and like, it just doesn't look clean. And then people are like, well, that's the aesthetic. I was like, yeah, but this looks like a really shitty aesthetic. Like, it's not like the 16 millimeter from like, you know what I mean? So, because we were working with like SR3, I'm sure it's something to do with the camera, the lenses. I'm sure the lenses were crap compared to what we were shooting on. And it's like, well, I just used the Red Epic and that shit looks amazing. You know what I mean? Like, we're shooting on a 50 millimeter, I always say, worst case scenario, throw a 50 millimeter and drop it down to 1.8, and rock and roll. And, it'll at least like look okay, or look decent, But, yeah, man, it was, yeah, I'm sorry, I've been rambling, but it was a trip. It was, that was my journey into getting to become a cinematographer.
No, man,
And yeah.
I think all of what you were saying is massively important. And I think that our generation, and this has been said in studies, I'm not going to quote any because I'm not that smart right now, but I think our generation has the benefit of being able to understand and appreciate that transfer and change in technology, right?
Yeah.
Because what you got, whether or not you made a project on, old school 35 mil film stock, right? At least you had hands on with the machine and you understand the fundamentals, right? You understand,
Yep.
like, even in digital stuff, where the naming convention came from, why things like shutter angle matter, because all of that came from before, right?
Mhm.
And so what you had the opportunity to learn in university, which I encourage you, if you guys are listening and you're in film school, take advantage of everything what Ethan is talking about, being able to rent gear, right? That's one thing I did when I was in college, was found out the library had lenses and cameras and stabilizers and all kinds of equipment. And so I was one of the only students going in there and pulling out as much gear as I could to use for projects. So
Yep.
ask, if you're in school, go find out and see if you can rent equipment before you buy it. But that gives you the opportunity to have basically a foundation and fundamentals in old school practical filmmaking, right? And then carrying that into the digital world. Dude, there's so much you were talking about that I would love to unpack. Just,
Yeah, and where did you go to film school? Or like what era did you
so
go?
I didn't go. So when I went back I was a non-traditional student as well. So it's actually funny because my whole story is I met my wife at the community college. We got married. We lived in Jackson Hole, Wyoming for a year. Just kind of, we were skiing, snowboarding, backpacking, and then got married. And then she went to college. So I was just working at a hobby shop while I was managing the RC section of a hobby shop, building drones and
Mhm.
stuff while she was in college. And then went back to school thinking I was going to be a mechanical engineer. Got 2 years into the program, decided didn't want to be an engineer, and then switched over to visual communication design and with a minor in film production,
Mhm.
thinking I would kind of split both, right? Then ended up finding out that my university had a fine arts program in visual communication design, so I applied for that program, got accepted, and so went dumped the film minor and just went full on fine arts
Mhm.
degree in visual communication design, which did include photography, videography, right?
Mhm.
And so I was doing that and then was working as a drone pilot and videographer for the marketing and communications department on campus while I was going to school. And so for them, I was doing shooting campus projects and then again flying the drone. So would was renting any kind of film equipment I could. Used a bunch
Yeah.
of my financial aid money one quarter to buy camera and lights and whatever else I thought I would need, and then just turned into a yes man with projects. Right,
Yeah.
shot as whatever I could. But that's kind of my background.
Mhm.
But
The drone era, dude,
dude,
I got lucky a little bit with that. So my internship was with a drone company. My buddy, who's a good friend now, but he's older. He's an older guy, and I ended up interning for him. And I had bought in 2015. I bought the Inspire series,
dude,
and
you're
that
going
shit was
big.
like, yeah, I paid like 8 grand for it. Again, I had
Yeah,
money to burn.
spending.
Yeah, yeah, and because the Phantoms were flying away, and they were like the only reliable one that really is the Inspired. I'm like, oh my
Yeah,
god, like it's always like back in the day, you're like, oh, I could buy this piece of equipment, and it was in that drone era time where it was like kind of going from people were paying a lot of money to the race to the bottom. But I was like, okay, I'll buy this Inspire and this will be really cool. So I'll have it for my senior year and it's new and drones are new and it's reliable. Dude, I don't think I got one job, but I think I got like one job for like 300
bro.
bucks, And but I did intern, and I ended up meeting a buddy of mine who kind of kept me afloat. Like he didn't like editing and he was like, I need someone to edit. So I just basically survived off editing with his projects, and then I did like Amazon Flex, and all this other shit to kind of make ends meet. And I even thought about going back to contracting, but I was like, I can't do that. Like I gotta tough this out. Anyways, but yeah, the drone era. What you're talking about, I don't know what years that was, but it was like, dude, seeing that stuff rapidly develop
Bro.
was wild.
Drones were my life for a long time. So when I
Hmm.
was at the hobby shop managing that section, right, I remember the first time I saw a dude come in with a quadcopter.
Hmm.
Because at the time it was mostly RC airplanes, helicopters, trucks, cars, whatever. And I had this guy come in and he had just like balsa wood frame, right, held together with like fiberglass and epoxy, and he had four electric RC airplane speed controls, motors, and are like an Arduino unit, right? And he's like, "Yo, check this out." And he fired that thing up, plugged it in. Lithium polymer batteries are still new at this point, right? So it just, dude, the thing looked like just totally janky, right? But he
Yeah.
plugs the thing in, and on startup, he's like, I programmed it so the motors chirp out like the Mario theme song. So he plugs it in, and it's like doo 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 doo, and the props are, and I'm like, whoa, what is this? So I
Yeah.
got obsessed immediately.
Hmm.
And working at a hobby shop, I had all the tools, so started building the frames. I had the motors, the batteries, learned how to write the code, programming my own flight controllers, started building quadcopters before DJI was even a thing. In fact, I remember the first time I saw an OG DJI like Phantom 1, like a
Yeah.
Phantom, come into the shop. And the guy's like, I bought this off of a Chinese website. He's like, and the thing doesn't work. Can you fix it? And I pull it apart and I'm like, bro, this thing's a hunk of trash. It's all integrated circuitry. I'm like, there's no way you can fix this thing without actually diving into the motherboard and,
Yeah.
trying to really try to figure it out. I'm like, if you want to get something that's working, you should just build it yourself. And so I've been in the drone world from the beginning all the way through, and to see how far it's come has been kind of mind blowing, right? Like, I was so deep in the FPV stuff starting out that I building my own antennas, antenna tracking systems, head tracking systems, like doing it all, buying, importing parts from China directly, like video transmission systems, and then building my own. Like the goal for us at the time, nobody cared, nobody gave a shit about drones back then, right?
Oh
Like
yeah, yeah,
the
yep.
goal was to see how high and how far we could go before we would lose signal, right? So like we had drones that we were pushing up like, in the thousands of feet, miles out with these antenna tracking systems, just for the hell of it, right? The footage was trash, right? But
Yeah.
we were, dude, I was hacking and buying up like old security camera sensors and pulling the camera modules out and the lenses and soldering up all my own stuff, because it just wasn't it wasn't made. It wasn't like today where you could go buy a freaking
Oh, I
Mavic
know.
3 Pro or an
They're
Inspire. And
yeah.
like I was following the Cinestar guys, because then all of a sudden they were doing the big heavy lift drones and they
Yeah.
were putting
Yep.
like actual freaking cameras on them, and I was like, I was in it, man. That's
Yeah.
why when I went back to school, I was like, I'm going to be a mechanical engineer and I'm going to build drones. That's going to be my life.
Yeah.
And didn't work out that way. Still love drones. Got big time into the drone racing thing, the FPV stuff. I'm maybe gonna get back into it, kind of. Right. I still
Yeah.
have a drone. I have a Part 107. I fly. I have like what I think I have a Mavic 2 still. But drone footage, like this kind of goes back to something you touched on earlier about the rise and fall, or the fall and rise again of film footage, because I think that ties in heavily with the chase to the 4K, the high resolution stuff, right? Because right around that same time, everybody was, 4K TVs were coming out,
Yeah.
4K cameras were coming out. Everybody was like, we're
4K. Yeah.
chasing this perfect resolution, like as close to the human eye can perceive. And then we got there and we got bored so fast, right? That it was a blip. It was like film is out, right? Digital's in, and then all of a sudden it's like, this is boring, film's back in, right? Because we like the texture and the grain and the grit
Yeah.
and the aesthetic. And drone footage was the same way. It was like drone footage came in, everybody was like, hey, we can do helicopter tracking shots for cheap. And then we got there and everybody loved it. And then all of a sudden it was like, now today you're like, drone stuff,
Yeah.
right? It's like everybody has a drone. Anybody can shoot a drone.
Yeah, the Mavic, that I don't say that it's peaked out, but my buddy still has. He does. I don't think he has. I don't know if he got the Inspire 3, but he has the Inspire 2 kitted out. Which, by the way, phenomenal camera on the Inspire 2s. And he's just like, there's not a lot of jobs for it that want to pay, and and so he keeps that. I think the Inspire 2. I don't think, like I said, I have to double check with him, but. It does an amazing image, and it's like you're not doing crazy stuff with corporate clients. And if you, by the way, if you're landing the bigger jobs, then you're not you are hiring out a team.
Yeah.
Like, so he's in this weird space where they kind of do, just like everyone else, they do the jack of all trades, everything. They offer like editing and DP work and camera work and but drone was the main thing. But yeah, man, I just was on well, it's been a year now, but I was on a TV pilot, or not TV pilot, but it was a reality show pilot, dude, and like it just busted out a Mavic 3. And dude, you don't even need anything anymore. Like I remember for years, I was like, I wish that because the Inspires, you could swap the lenses, the Micro Four Thirds lens. I was like,
Yeah.
that's what you want. I was like, dude, none of this 24 mm shit. People want to see that like 50 mil, 75. Like you should be doing long lens. If you're on a drone, in my opinion, was like you better be long lensing that, because
Yeah.
that's gonna separate all your footage. And some people did. You can tell people like that knew what they were doing. We're like, oh yeah, we're gonna hijack this. We're gonna do some whatever.
Yep.
But it wasn't, and then I was like, well, the Mavics are, I was like, man, I wish they would just do like, and they finally started doing it. The Mavic 2 Zoom was pretty dope. I did a project in Alaska where I did a Mavic 2 Zoom, and I loved it because it was an optical zoom. It was only at like 2K or 1080, but I was like, dude, that's the compression that you want, like the composition. And then they finally came out with a Mavic 3 or whenever they did that, where it was like it switched to the sensors. Now they're at the Mavic 3 Pro. It's like three different sensors, three different
Yeah.
focal lengths. It's like,
Yep.
and he just busted that out, man. And he was even on like a zoom one. It was just like a really cool track shot. And it was like, like 95% of the work out there now for drone and aerial, like you can do, like I was one of the first Part 107 guys,
Mhm.
and we studied and studied, dude, and I almost failed the
Yo,
test. And
dude.
now I let it expire. I don't even consider getting one because I'm like, if I'm going to do a drone shot, I'm just going to throw, I hate to say it, but it's like, it's not worth the extra, like, 2-3 thousand for the project. I'll be like, hey man, I'll get, pay me 750 or 1,000 extra for like a week long trip if I'm doing something like over, like going down to Roatan. And if
Yeah.
they really want to get like drone footage, I was like, look man, like I'll throw it in for like 750. I'll rent
Yep.
the Mavic 3 and I
Yep.
just throw it up in the air.
Yep.
And
Dude,
if you,
same.
as long as I hate to say it, it's like, because if you get caught and you have a license, then they're gonna fucking come. I don't know what they can do, but they'll come down on you. I'm like, but if you're flying as a recreational user, then you're pleading ignorance,
Oh,
and
dude.
it's like, so it's this weird like standard. I'm like, well, then I don't really care. Like, I'm gonna plead ignorance. Just be
Bro,
like,
I
oh, I didn't
I
know,
I
officer. I
I
got this
re-
amazing shot of the national park, but I didn't know. I'm sorry. And now you know what I mean? Like, it was kind of frustrating. It was a
Dude,
whole
I, I
thing, dude.
I rebelled so hard against the Part 107 because I was like, dude, bro, like I again going back from the Wild West when nobody gave a shit, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I was like, first off, I was like, the government should, they didn't know what the heck they were doing to begin with, so it was like all of
Yeah.
a sudden I was tracking the laws from the beginning, right? It was like all of a sudden there were no rules, there was no legislation on it, nobody cared, and then all of a sudden it was like everybody cared and it was like no commercial use, but then we were utilizing loopholes and terminology. Like my buddy was running a business and he would say, I don't charge for the drone, I
Yeah.
charge for the editing. There was this whole like, and so for the longest time I was like, I don't want to do it, just because in principle I was
Yeah.
like, it shouldn't be regulated. It
Yeah.
doesn't need to be regulated, right? If you need to geofence people out of airports and other sensitive areas, fine, do that, but don't make us have to go and go through all this extra stuff just to fly a drone, because everybody's concern in the hobby world was then that would trickle down over into every RC aircraft, right?
Mhm.
Because and so this is what's so crazy about everything that's going to be going on in Ukraine with the drones and stuff is I can remember I had a guy that used to work at the Air Force Base here in Spokane. He would bring in these like, scale, I think they're 1/4 scale fiberglass, uh, you know, jet turbine engine RC airplanes, and we would work on them, right?
Mhm.
And this thing would go 300 miles an hour at full throttle, and it's huge and dangerous and loud, and I'm like, yo, like these things could carry, even before, like the RC airplanes could carry a real payload, like
Oh
a
yeah.
lot of
Yeah.
weight over long distances. And with the stuff I was doing with FPV, I had a conversation. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was talking to this guy from the Air Force Base. I'm like, it wouldn't be that hard for somebody to weaponize these things,
Yeah.
right? Like I can build right now for $400 a drone that can lift 50 pounds,
Yeah.
right? That's a lot of ordnance.
Mhm.
And so it's been kind of wild watching this happen now over in Ukraine, where I'm like, oh, they finally put two and two together and somebody figured
Yeah.
out, oh dang, like I can build
Yep.
a guided weapon for $500,
Yep.
right?
Dude,
Like,
funny story about that. So back in 2017, my buddy was still working CIA static. I had only done one rotation with CIA static. It was a black site in Pakistan. We both came onto the contract at the same time. I jumped over to WIPS because our site had shut down. And at the
mhm.
time, WIPS protection, which is mobile protection for Department of State, paid more. And I was like, okay, cool, whatever, and I had a time limit on my shit. I was like, I'm going to give this another year and I'm out. Well, he stayed for like 6 years. So we pitched to the one of the black sites, one of the site managers. It was both the we call the client or the CIA, whoever was representing them, and then the site manager, which was basically quote unquote Blackwater. I don't know what the
Mhm.
fuck they called themselves at that time. So we like got on a few meetings, And our pitch at the time was, and this is pretty limited for quadcopters and stuff. I mean, it's still pretty early on with battery life and what they're doing payloads. But we had pitched a program to basically do security with drones where you could, if you got hit on the base, you could throw it up. We could get big TV monitors,
Mhm.
ISR footage essentially, and a whole thing. And then our second pitch was we called it Project One Way Ticket, and I have the PDF from 20, and it was exactly what they were doing or what they started doing in Ukraine. But I didn't think of it of FPVs. I thought of it more as like a Mavic, like
Yeah.
still stable. It moves fast. I was like, well, that's fast enough. I was in the Marine Corps. I was like, that shit moves fast. I never thought to throw it on an FPV. Well, then obviously, Ukraine kicks off, and me and Bollmeyer, my buddy, who we pitched this project to, which they basically told us like, yeah, you're this is dumb, whatever. Now we're sitting in Ukraine in 3 weeks into the war, and we're watching all these drones doing drone drops with grenades, and then FPVs start coming. I'm like, dude, we could have made millions. You know what I
Dude,
mean? Like, I was like, dude, we were ahead of the curve, and no one knows it.
yo, and that's
But
why I'm kind of thinking about getting back. So this is a drone I built. I built this drone in, like a buddy and I went in together on 3D printing because I was using some of the
Mhm.
engineering like AutoCAD stuff background that I was doing before. But I built this drone in 2013.
Yeah.
So this drone's been around for a while, but this thing still hauls ass. Like it'll go 75, 80 miles an hour
Oh
wide
yeah.
open. And it weighs, with the battery on it and a camera, it probably weighs about 2.5 pounds. And it's just like a rocket. You hit full
Mhm.
throttle, this thing just takes off like you would not believe.
Yeah,
And
we were trying to get embedded with
this is
the
old.
FPV unit. When I was in Ukraine in July, well, we got a long range unit, but the FPV was just too dangerous. They're like, it's too dangerous to go and sit with them, and because they're within range,
Yeah.
and obviously FPV drones, man, they're like, if you get found or whatever, they want you dead,
Oh yeah. A
on
good,
both
yeah,
on
good
both
pilot.
sides,
Dude, that's why I'm
yeah.
practicing up because I'm like, hey man, all this stuff's gonna pay off from way back in the day. Because
Yeah,
that's the
yeah.
thing is a drone like that with the battery pack I put on there, you get maybe 4 minutes, 5 minutes if you're lucky, right?
Yeah.
Going,
Well,
doing
and
some
that's what they get in
aerobatics.
Ukraine too. Ukraine isn't like, they're not like, oh man, we revolutionized and we have like 20 minutes of battery life. No. If you ever, obviously, I'm sure you've seen the footage. Every time they get close to a tank, they're already at low battery.
Yeah, oh
So
yeah,
they're just like, they're going in. And we were at the UAV factory with the stuff they were developing on the technology side, but also for internal guts.
yep,
But it's all the same. I mean, I always say it's phenomenal because it's basically like me, a bunch of grunts. You gave us a problem to solve, and you gave us like, here's a bunch of ordnance and a little and some money.
hmm,
Figure it out, and they did. And it's like,
yeah,
dude, this stuff would have never flown, even though we came up with ideas like it. The military, it's slow. You're seeing it way different now. Yeah. In fact, I was watching Preston Stewart. He was in Saudi Arabia, and there was like a company out of Saudi or something that was building. And the next step up from the FPVs is like, you can't go like, oh, we're gonna sell one for 20 grand. You got to like, all right, what features now are you going to give me for this expendable munition? And they
right,
had one that was like, I think 5 grand, but it had the gimbal and everything on it. You know what I mean? So it could carry 2 RPG payloads. It was about yay big. And he's like holding it, and you could tell, I could already see the camera. It's like a 3 axis gimbal. It's like, okay, like you build in thermal, you build in night vision, you build in laser, so you build in all the features, but you don't charge more than like a few grand because then no one's gonna buy it. Why? Because I can go to Josh and be like, dude, we need to get 10 of these because we got a tank calm down. Cool, that costs 5 grand for 10 of them. We
hmm,
slap the Soviet era RPGs on it and we start going to town.
yeah, man,
And so it's kind of like IEDs back in the day, but even IEDs weren't like, it's this FPV and drone stuff, man. Even the drone droppers, people forgot about drone droppers. Like,
hmm,
dude, you can go on Amazon right now and buy those fishing line things, and that because that's what they were using.
yep.
And then they started developing like more sophisticated, more things, more developed for dropping grenades, opposed to like the
Oh, dude,
fishing line drops.
yeah, man. There's so much you could do. Like that was the thing. I was like, even with the drones, like quads are great, short range for maneuverability. But even like again, if you like, we got into these long range planes,
Mhm.
right? So, and for low budget, man, you can build. You think drones can carry a payload? You put one of these big foam airplanes up there, and those things will come in, and they can carry a lot of weight, and they're very quiet, and they're very fast,
Yeah, and
right?
by the way, they did that about a
Yeah,
year ago. We were talking with Chosen Company,
yeah,
probably about a year and a half ago, and there's a company, I can't remember what it was out of, but they were sending like almost like balsa wood type thing,
Bro,
and it
yo,
was a motor with a camera,
dude.
and it was basically they sent it was like $100,
Yeah, man.
and I
Dude,
can't remember what country it was from.
I built one of the
Yeah,
fastest ripping airplanes I've ever built out of
yeah,
a sheet of that like half-inch pink foam you can buy at Home
yep,
Depot, some balsa wood and some hot glue, man.
yep,
And that
and
thing would just haul.
that's what they did. They just stuff it with a bunch of plastic C4 or
Yep.
whatever they use, a Comp B or whatever. And so the Ryan from the Commander Chosen, he's like stuffing it,
Hmm.
and that's it. That's all it was. And so it was super cheap. It was like 100 or 200 bucks. You put it together, and then because you can't ship munitions or
Yeah.
especially explosives, but it's like you guys got all of it there. So that it's like, and it was and it, dude, it was like a 30-40 pound payload. And
Yeah.
so that is, you
Yep.
thought FPVs were bad, like, oh man, like, and so they did some of that, and then you're starting to see long range, the fixed wings, and then they
Hmm.
drop
They dropped the
FPVs. So,
drones. Yeah,
dude,
yeah. I've seen that.
even fiber optic cable stuff. I mean, it's
Yep.
wild. It's some crazy, and it's amazing to see the development. I mean, I think we have there's one company here in the U.S. that's trying to develop the FPV type drone. I think it's called like Anduril or something, and it does like, I've seen it on Instagram, and I've checked out the website. But
Yeah.
it does the angle. You can choose angle of attack, and
Yep.
and I'm like, dude, that's awesome. As long as it doesn't cost more than a few grand, because we talked to the
Dude.
Ukrainians over there, man. They hate the Switchblade, which is the Lockheed Martin, you know, kamikaze drone. It's
Dude.
long, it's stupid.
Over engineered, man. And all
Over
that
engineered,
stuff. But
exactly. It was over engineered, and they're
that's
just like, yeah, we don't care. They just like throw them off to the side. They don't even use them, and
yeah.
they're like 50 grand a pop,
Yeah.
So, anyways, I mean, that's the Ukraine side. That's like the warfighter side of me, and the drone side. It was kind of funny, and anyways, but yeah, man, the drone technology has been amazing. But and honestly, I think when we talk about that, it's the digital technology aspect too.
Yeah.
Like, that was that era. I'm glad I went to film school when I did, and I always encourage people. Like I said, you went to school, and I do encourage people to go to film school. Like, I
Yeah.
think, because I run into guys that it's a good crash course. It's almost like basic. It's like going to basic boot camp. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, you can do a lot of the run and gun stuff, or like you can train an Afghan militia, but there's nothing like actually going to boot camp. Like, you can train up the Afghans as much you want, but they should go to boot camp. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
learn the basics. And so I think in film you don't need to go to 4 year, but I think, like, I always preach with Minneapolis Tech. I For me, 100%, like, go to that film school, because you'll learn everything, the basics, and I think that'll put you ahead of a lot of people that were kind of, because I was in the era too. I'm sure you've seen it, where it's like, yeah, you find out, like, oh, I like cameras, and you kind of get your first job, and it takes you like 6 or 7 years to basically find out. And it's nothing crazy. I mean, you're probably making good money, but I know guys that are making way more money than I am, and they still don't know some of the basics that I know. That then they go, oh my
Yeah.
god, I wish I knew that. And it's like, not saying it comes with experience, but that stuff you would have learned in film school on day one. Like, so sometimes I tell people, hey, go do film school, like a 2 year. Get a good basis, like a technical, not a theory. You don't watch movies for 2 years and write papers, but how to set up cameras, how to audio sync,
Hmm.
composition, lenses, apertures, lighting, even learning how to, like, amperage, like, what are these LEDs, like, all this stuff, like backlighting, and then you can start watching those films and be like, oh my god, that's how they actually made it,
Yeah.
like,
It starts to
it
make sense.
it makes a lot more sense. And
Yeah.
especially in the digital era, everybody was like, well, I can just go and it's true, yeah, you can go grab a DSLR and go rock and roll, but if you don't know how to use that DSLR, you don't know how to use, sometimes it's all about the operator.
Yeah.
You can still make a 10-year-old camera look great, man. Like, there's a tempting, I'm sure you've seen it, it's like tempting to buy the RE Alexas from like 2006 or something. You
Hmm.
can buy them with like 600 or 1,000 hours on them, and they're like 4 grand or 5 grand, and they're just bricks. They're huge. They suck up power. They got like these crazy I've never even seen them, because I never worked that on big film sets like that, where it's like, here's the S by S card that no one has a reader to. You have to have the reader that Ari gives you, and it's all
Yeah.
1080p footage, by the way. But that 1080p footage is the best 1080p footage. It's better than 4K ever gave you on any of the DSLRs or even the red cameras and the color science. And I think when it comes to the nerd stuff, the dynamic range is what people really, I think, don't that it's what their eyes see and that they say they can tell the difference. And that's my own take, is what dynamic range does that camera have? And
Yeah.
dude, the dynamic range on Ari's, that's why you pay 100 grand for them.
All right, you guys, we are halfway through this week's episode of Guns and Cameras, and that means it's time for me to tell you it's been brought to you by 1156 Productions and by Tokens of Valor. What is Tokens of Valor, you may ask? Let me tell you. It is a boutique ballistic jewelry company run by yours truly. I take ballistic components like brass and copper and I slap them together with sterling silver to create one-of-a-kind, hand-forged, wearable works of art. If you're interested in some custom ballistic jewelry for yourself, go to Tokens of Valor on Instagram, send me a DM, and we'll get something started for you. Also, you guys, the sun is out, so the guns are out. Be sure to go to 1156productions.com, navigate to the brand store, check out some of these dope tank tops featuring the Guns and Cameras logo. If you buy something there, thank you. All the proceeds are just going back into growing this platform. All right, now that all of that is out of the way, I've really enjoyed the first half of our episode featuring Ethan Nagel, aka Ethan.Nagel.Films on Instagram. He's also the host of the Into the Breach show. Be sure to check out that podcast. I really appreciate his expertise, his wisdom, his knowledge, and his service to our country. So thank you, Ethan. You guys got some insane stuff coming at you in the second half of the episode, and it's going to happen right now. Until you've worked in industry for a little while and you understand, like, how many of your projects still get downsampled to 1080p, right?
Oh yeah, all of
Like,
them.
everybody, again, it's chasing the crazy resolution on these sensors. Everybody's like, oh, I need a 6K, I need an 8K, I need all these, you get into the gear acquisition syndrome where you're chasing
Yeah.
every new release you got to have, and it's like, whoa, we are living in the golden age of great cameras for low budget people, right? Where it's, you've got the last 10 years to choose from. Any one of those cameras is going to give you a great image. It's just going to be looking for the things that you think are important, and that's going to come from an understanding, again, going back to education, getting the fundamentals right. You don't need a 4-year degree. 2-year community colleges have some insane programs.
Oh yeah. Yep.
For me, I always recommend, my big value for going to school at all was being, one, don't don't uh, don't degrade the title of student, right? Being a student, that's an access card to just about anywhere, right?
Yep.
So what I did was, when I was in college, is I would go to any of the companies that I could find in industry locally, and I'd say, hey, I am a student. I would like to come shadow you for a day. I want to hear your story, because people love talking about themselves. And because I was a student, I wasn't a threat to them yet. I wasn't competition. I'm just a student. And so, man, I got in with FaceTime with some of the leaders in industry in my community as a student, which was hugely valuable. So networking is massive, right? That's one of
Oh
the
yeah.
big values too, right? Your professors have probably worked in industry. They're going to have connections. And so being able to come in and one, get a healthy understanding of the fundamentals, the basics, but then also build a network in film school is huge. So that's the big value for school right there. But
Yep.
I want to talk to you because we're kind of touching on it, and I want to
Yeah.
unpack this because you, way back in the intro, we were talking about practical effects, right? I think my personal opinion is we need to get back there, because I think people are getting pretty sick and tired of all of the CGI,
Oh,
right?
100%. Yeah.
And I'm stoked, because I think that I think we're going to have experience kind of almost a renaissance, or some sort of a bit of a change or a shift in how films are being made, because well, just the other day I wasn't watching, a buddy told me that he watched this, what's it called? Hold on, I'm gonna pull up Netflix really quick because I can. And it was a new movie, and this is a great example of what I've been talking about before on this show. Oops, hold on, I don't want sound. What's it called? Freaking A. Hold on. Aftermath. Okay, so Aftermath recently added to Netflix. Sorry. It's got one of the Zach and Cody twin brothers acting in it. But the whole film takes place, and again, I'm paraphrasing because I've only watched parts of it. The whole film takes place on a bridge. So
Mhm.
terrorists lock down a bridge, and then there's this one character who's one of the twins who's a
Yeah.
Marine, right, ends up going through the bridge and saving everybody, is what I'm assuming the plot line is, which is pretty typical. But case in point, if you watch that film was probably shot, and again, I'm assuming, but based off of how everything goes, was probably shot over a week on a soundstage, all green screen, and really close set, right? Like even I think there was the Jennifer Lopez movie came out recently with the mech
Oh
suits,
Christ. Yeah.
right?
I never saw it, but I know what you're talking about.
Right, and
Yeah.
I watched it and I'm like, that movie, man, for the budget it had, the whole movie takes place inside of a mech suit, right? So it's
Yep.
just tight shots of Jennifer Lopez and in a small set robot with a bunch of green screen and CGI. And so it's like you have these major blockbusters that are being shot huge budgets, but the whole thing is contained and controlled by computer, right? Like
Mhm.
it's not, and now and AI is coming into play with that too. I think that people are going to get tired of it really quick, and we're going to go back to a resurgence of practical effects and old school movie making techniques. What do you think about that?
100%. Also, things become more accessible too. If you didn't notice, as a cinematographer, I suggest some all my lighting because I liked your warm tone.
Oh, thanks, bro.
No,
It was intentional. Could you tell?
yeah, yeah, no, it looks great. It looks phenomenal. It looks way better than mine. Mine's all like weirdly sharp and shit. Yeah, no, 100%. I think practical effects are coming back into play, or they should. It always comes down to cost and time, and everyone wants to be fast. And now, I'm not saying I've been on like a ton of film sets, but if you put in, I think a lot of people want to do like, we'll just do it in post because it's cheaper. And now it is cheaper per se, but it looks like dog shit. And I hate I
100%.
I've hated that. Dude, they started doing that back in like back in like, oh man, probably like 2010s is when they really started doing it. Like the Action Essentials pack from I think that was from God, the guy that he did all these like amazing After Effects things, and I wish I remember his name. He was inspiration for like Corridor Digital. Damn it, I can't remember
Oh,
his name. I actually bought it when I was in the Marine Corps. So
right.
all these crappy effects, they were using like the same exact ones in like Hollywood productions for like years, or at least in TV series and whatnot. But no, I think they're starting to go into it. I mean, John Wick was one that brought it back
Mhm.
because they needed the actual gun for tempo purposes when they were actually doing the fight coordination. Dude,
Mhm.
I did it with my first student films with airsoft, and you could tell some films use the airsoft guns. You know, you can kind of tell, but like pistols are great. Like I had a suppressor on it, so it looked real. Like you shot it, air shot out of the suppressed side. Now it didn't have a round kick or a like casing kick out of it.
Mhm.
Didn't matter, man. It looked banger, like on my in slow motion, like telling the story. I was like, dude, this looks sick. But yeah, absolutely. I think the practical effects are coming back. It's just that you need to do what people did back in the 80s. You need to make it so that every single visual effects shot that you do, which in visual effects can mean, hey, we have pyrotechnics on, stage, or we're doing a technical
Mhm.
rig or something like that. It just takes planning, and you
Mhm.
need to plan down to the frame because every frame costs money. And I think that's why a lot of studios or other places, they have the idea, they're like, yeah, let's just shoot it and then we'll fix it in post, blah blah blah. It's like, no, you need to take the time, and then you need to be good with time management. And so I think so, man. And honestly, it looks so much better. I mean,
Mhm.
like look at Black Hawk Down. They
Yeah.
by the way, that was the first time they integrated some bullet hits, and it doesn't look as good, and you could tell right away. Some look better than others, but dude, they would line up the streets with like hundreds of thousands of bullet hits, and they have to reset for each take.
Yeah, dude.
But dude, the RPGs on strings look phenomenal. They're blowing up And by the way, I've been on the receiving end of those. Of like the line RPGs and real ones, but like the line ones that actually, like in our training, we had medical training. It was awesome. This RPG would scream over your head, and they had a concussion. It was like a concussion propane tank, and it would hit a car. It was all staged, and
Yeah.
but you would feel the heat and the blast off the concussion tank, and it was all obviously safe and everything. But you know, and then the AK blanks, which are super loud in training, they start shooting at you from rooftops, and you know, and you go through the training. So
Yeah.
you know, you can do it, and you're seeing some of the bigger films start to go to it. But you can tell though the films that don't, because they're just doing as fast as they can, and they know they can get away with it, man. Like, you know, like I think a lot of the Netflix crap, you know, that movie with Ryan Reynolds and The Rock and Gal Gadot, the Red, it was, or I think it was
Yeah.
called Red
Yep.
or something. It was horrific. I mean, it's horrific. Sometimes, and they even pointed out, I was looking at some scenes, I was like, I don't even think The Rock and Ryan Reynolds are in the same. I don't even think they're in the same room. Like,
Probably
there's
not.
points where you watch that and it's so CG and it's so
Dude.
ridiculous that you're like, they weren't even in the same room. I'm pretty sure that in that film they were just like, they just shot different plates and they're like, all right, we'll stick it. That's how bad it gets. But no, I think they are going back to practical because you know, it's still about the composition and what's in front of you. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
to go back what we talked about with cameras, dude. There was the 5D Mark II, which was I think the first 1080p whatever. That was in the Korengal Valley in 2008. And sometimes it's about your subject matter. So when you're filming a firefight with a bunch of Afghans, there's this guy that was Louis Palau, I think. My buddies he was filming my buddies, the ETT that was out there, the embedded trainer team, and then the army as well. But dude, they were getting firefights all the time. So this footage looks amazing, and it's
Mhm.
2008. It's not like the handheld Zoom DV stuff. It's a Canon 5D Mark II, and it's like it looks banger. Like he's
Yeah.
on a 16 mil to 35 mil. He's running. They're like literally in the middle of a firefight. My buddy's like run. It looks amazing, and yeah, and he had like a at the time he had like a steady cam, but it was like the hand
That was
one.
probably the glide cam,
The glide
probably
cam,
more
but
the
it wasn't the big one. It was like a small one, you know.
yeah.
And I remember seeing that too. And my buddy's like, "Dude, yeah, he had this 5 Canon Mark D," and I'm like, "Oh my god!" He's like, "Yeah, it's like a $6,000 camera." You know, now it's like, oh, actually, yeah, flagships are all $6,000. Like the price hasn't changed. But anyway, so but coming back to that, you know, it's about your composition and what you're doing. You know, you can make epics on a cheap budget. You just got to go to some of these places. You know, like look at the Creator. They made it for
Yeah.
80 million. Yeah, it's 80 million, but how Gareth Edwards approached it is how Hollywood should be approaching, which by the way is what they did in the 80s. You know,
Yeah.
James Cameron knew every single frame. He knew Terminator 2, they had to shoot those plates before they shot the scene because they had to
Yep.
go to ILM, and every single shot was calculated. In Aliens, every single shot is calculated with visual effects to tell the story. And Gareth Edwards did that. Not so much they calculated the shots, but they edited the film with with no visual effects, and then it was locked, and then they go, okay, now we spend the money because
Hmm.
your pacing's there, your tone is there, the music
Yep.
is there. Now they just got it. So then it was like a reverse, you know. And honestly, I think that's probably the way to go now. Anyways, but you're starting to see filmmakers kind of go that way, and those visual effects look amazing. The movie's a bit but the visual effects actually look phenomenal because
Oh yeah.
they you could tell they knew what they're doing. They took their time with the shots. They weren't just like randomly spending money here and there. But yeah, I think practicals are going to come into play, and you know, and practical sets too. You know, sometimes there's just nothing better than like finding an amazing location. But when it comes to gunfights and stuff like that, things can be cheaper. You know, I think it comes down to what's your priority as a filmmaker. You know, like I think. You know, I always think about this if I ever get handed money to do a movie, which I have a buddy that produces and makes films, you know, and for him, he literally just told me, he's like, just give me an idea that we can put money behind, you know, and I'm like, oh, cool. Like, he's got funders and backers. So I'm always like, okay, can I come
Dude,
with
that's
something?
what's up.
But if you want to do like a low budget action film like Free Fire with Cillian Murphy, you
Mm.
know, and Brie Larson, I love that movie. It's all in one location, but it's all practical effects. There's no visual adding, and this came out like I think 2015, you know, so it was in the heart of all that stuff, and they were using blanks, but you could tell they were calculated, like, you know. And also I think knowledge of the director too. I think as a director and as a filmmaker, you need to know every facet of production. So like for me, I know that you can go buy, they used to sell these dust balls, and again, this is when I was in film school. I was like, how do I make bullet hits? I know that you used to do a paintball gun filled with dust. Well, those dust balls, the plastic ones you fill with the dust, cost a lot of money. They're like 50 cents a ball or something, right?
Hmm.
Well, I don't know if they make them anymore, but there's a company that used to make these like green and yellow balls, but it's what they use on production. They would hit and they would poof in the dust, and they were cheaper. You could buy like 500 for like $50, and I think I still have it somewhere. I don't know if I threw them away or not, but like I used to have it, and I pumped them into somebody. I borrowed their paintball gun because it's meant for paintball guns. Dude, I started ripping. It looks real. Like I have footage of like hitting the ground on my buddy, you know, and we were doing tests. It wasn't even like we were just doing tests, you know. And at one point I stuck a piece of cardboard on me just to feel like it was like if I got shot with it, because I was like, well, maybe we could put cardboard under, and we could, instead of using a squib, we'll just shoot someone up with this paintball gun to, you know, at least to like sell the shot in the first few seconds. And so, yeah, you need to know the facets of that. Like, I think as a director and as a filmmaker, or even as a content creator, knowing how to accomplish the effect is gonna like get the job done. Not just be like, I'm the director. I don't know. Somebody fucking go handle it. I want a gun that shoot, you know, whatever. And then, you know that there's airsoft options, know that there's blank gun options, know that, you know, you can use dust balls, know that you can do squibs, know that you can do compressed air, no, you know, and then time your shot, man. Like, you know how to do it. Like, I think that's why a lot of people don't, is they just don't know those facets. You know, I think it's sometimes weird. When I was going through film school, I didn't realize that directors actually don't know how to film things. Like, there are some directors that don't touch cameras. They don't understand anything. You know, I think Tarantino is kind of like one of those guys where he knows enough. Obviously, he's Tarantino, but he's like, yeah, there's nothing like 35 millimeter. I was like, Tarantino, you put him in front of, I could put film stock, he wouldn't know the fucking difference. You know, no one knows the difference these days. You know, I think it's one of those lies that everyone kind of, you know, oh, film's greatest. I was like, bullshit, man. We watch films, and you're like, all right, well, you know, I can't even tell the difference. You know, you watch older ones, you can start figuring it out, but then they also look like shit. You know, I think David Fincher had the best, you know, take on it. He's like, you'd get dailies back and everything's out of focus, where the lighting didn't work. And like now you want to find out 24, 48 hours later, after you've already shot and spent all this money, that your shot fucking sucked. You know, I mean, like, you know what I mean? And so, anyways, but yeah, I think practical effects are going to come back. I think you just have to be very calculated with it. It's that weird thing of like, technology is offering up so much, and I think people rely on computer technology opposed to going out and finding new technology. You know, like 3D printing stuff, I don't do it, but I was watching them make 3D printed props in their house.
Dude.
That is wild. That means that like Weta and all them, like I could go to somebody like you know, or maybe a friend of yours and be like, look, I got $500. We need to outfit and make this, like, you know, like a helmet or something. And, you know, I watched it was one of the sci-fi YouTube channels. Can't remember what it was called. Rust. I think it's called Rust or something like that. I don't remember.
Yeah.
But I watched one of theirs, and they had got a guy. They went to Iceland. It was like a crew of like 5 people. And it was all, you know, they knew what they were doing with visual effects, because obviously it was going to be visual effects heavy.
Yeah.
But they 3D printed his outfit, or like his, like at least his mask and his, dude. You can do it. And so like, I think it's the knowledge of always, that's what I love about YouTube, is you can find out. So maybe you won't do it, but you can find somebody that can then save the money, and then you can get the actual real props. Like, if you want to make a fake gun, dude, you know, 3D printer. Okay, let's design it, and I'll throw you $500. Can you make it for me? And then get a painter, you know, pay them $150 and some beer. Now you have this like amazing looking prop that you needed for your film, and it's that much better, you know. And so I do. You know, I think it's coming. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's already here.
Oh yeah, no, I 100% agree, and I'm stoked about it, because I think that we're in the, again, when it comes to the tools you have access to right now, right?
Oh, it's insane.
It's insane, and I think, you want to go down a rabbit hole of the guys that are making some of the most insane costumes, and like, whether you're into it or not, I admire the craftsmanship. I am not a cosplayer, but if you want to look at the people that are 3D printing some of the craziest like costumes, go down the rabbit hole of sci-fi cosplay with 3D printing, because those dudes are making some insane armor, mechanics, robotics, like freaking crazy stuff that you can do with 3D printing. But that goes back to like, what was I going to say? I had a thought. So when I had the honor of working under a guy when I was in school, right? Again, looking for mentors, right? Working in Marcom. One of the guys I was working with, he was a DP for a lot of like lower budget Discovery and History Channel projects.
Hmm.
And he was a photographer, but he always told me, and this is something I took to heart, is he's like, you want to be the guy on set with solutions to problems, right?
Yep.
And that was something that like I want to be the solution guy, and so that has been my goal as a filmmaker is being, you want to shoot a bootstrap project and you have nothing. It's like, look, I will build you rigs out of balsa wood and gaff tape, brother, to get the
Hmm.
angle you need, right? And that's just again being able to understand and know solutions to problems where it's like, hey, we really want to have this super badass looking prop gun, but we don't have the money for the VFX. It's like, well, hey, I know a guy that has a 3D printer and he's halfway decent at modeling.
Hmm.
Let's reach out and see again. Yeah, will he do it for, a tenner and a case of beer, right? Like that's something that being able to have that knowledge that is even an option, because I think the default setting right now for everybody is fix it in post, we'll do it with computers, right?
Yep.
It's like, well, maybe that's not what we have to do. Maybe we can do it in camera, which is going to be better always, I think, for a lot less money. It's just going to take a little bit of ingenuity, right?
Yep.
Or again, going back to those old films where they clearly took like, they went to the hardware store, bought some PVC pipe, a plunger, and a ratchet, and they made a weapon out of it, right? Spray painted it black. It's like, there you go.
Hmm.
Sometimes that with a talented actor is going to sell better than a computer rendered, replacement of a weapon. And
Yep.
I think that goes back to even talking too about options for talent these days, where I think actors, I think we got piss poor talent coming out of Hollywood personally.
Hmm.
And I'm not saying in general, right? I think you know, Hollywood has gone really soft, and I think if you look at the budgets for films, and they're just going just out of control, 150 million, 200 million, up to the $1 billion range, and you're watching the film and you're like, like this doesn't like if I had $1 billion, I can tell you for a fact it would look way better than that does. But I think that just comes from, I think unions play a big impact. Liability, I think that's a big problem in the States with a lot of things, is just the fact that everybody's afraid of being sued. So everybody's now so scared of, being willing to do something a little bit dangerous that they just play it super safe all the time.
Hmm.
And I'm a contrast guy. I like, dude, I was watching some old school Jackie Chan. I'm a big Jackie Chan guy, Bruce Lee, old school kung fu movies. That's one of my favorite things. Dude, those dudes they didn't pull the punches, man. Like
Oh yeah.
they hit each other on
Yep.
camera and it looks awesome. And they knew it looked awesome. So they're like, yeah, like they're bleeding and they're like, let's go again. Hit me harder this time. Maybe it'll look better.
Hmm.
Actors don't do that now. Actors, and nobody really wants to get punched, but I'm just saying that, there is a part of me that's like, let's get back into this. Hey, especially in like combat films, like war movies. And again, yeah, you probably understand this. It's like, I want to feel like, again, going back to Black Hawk Down, where you had this kind of great mix of computer graphics and practical effects, where it's like, hey, if I'm sitting in this film, I want to feel the impact, right? I've never been
Yep.
to war, right? I've never
Yep.
been in combat, but I want to go and I want to be able to experience and understand a little bit. And so being able to sit in films where you're like, hey, that feels pretty close to real, right? That's going to have a little bit more impact than things that are just, I don't know, they're not stuff these days is not doing it for me. And I'm like, let's
Yeah.
get back to again the Saving Private Ryans and the Black Hawk Downs and the films that the Brave Hearts and some of the stuff where it's like, hey, you actually it feels pretty fucking real, right?
Hmm.
And so that's something that I'm looking forward to being a part of. So let's real quick,
Yep.
Ethan. I want to get into kind of what you're doing right now. So we
Yeah.
talked a little bit about kind of your history, backstory, where you came from. What's some stuff that you're doing right now? What are you stoked about for projects this year?
Oh man, I fell into documentary filmmaking and mini docs. I do love it. I wanted to do more commercial work. Honestly, I want to make movies, but
Yeah.
for me, making money has been through mini docs and kind of the commercial or corporate side of the house. So it's like, all right, man, that's where I make my money. And then I'm not a huge fan of short films.
Mm.
It's me. I got nothing against it. I think people do it. I think it's a way to get your craft, but I make short films every time I go out and get paid when I go underwater and take photos and do video and tell a story for a YouTube video. That's where I get my trigger time. I call it. My qual time, my trigger time is every time I press record for a client. You know, so and so yeah, I think right now we closed up Embed Actual, which was the I end up writing, directing, producing, filming, editing, that whole thing, showrunner for Vet TV. We want to do another one. We wanted to get into Israel and Gaza, but we were supposed to go at a few weeks after at Ukraine, but it was a new series for Vet TV, so we were like, let's they're like, let's slow down, just edit the embed, and then go from there and see how it turns out, and make sure we actually like what we get. And they loved it. Everyone loved it. It was great. But now we're kind of like in this weird thing, obviously with Israel Gaza, but like we might. There's a bunch of irons in the fire. It's February, so I have a lot of project proposals out right now. One again for streaming series, again, like falling, that's who pays me. It pays me good money. So, right now I was on the phone the other day with a streaming service and they're working directly with the U.S. Army. But it'd be like some influencers but also doing Surviving the Cut. You ever remember Surviving the Cut series from
Yeah,
Discovery?
man. Yep.
So it'd be kind of a hybrid of that. I pitched it as like, well, let's just redo that and make it awesome and look awesome. Well, the owner was like, well, we need to integrate, because it's obviously for the streaming service as well. So
Yeah.
it'd be more personal, obviously, if we throw them, like some of these influencers in. So that looked like sounds good. He had to go for meetings, so this was all like 2 days ago. So we got to hop back on a meeting again.
Yeah.
Actually, that was yesterday, and then got another feelers out for a new embed, possibly to go to Uganda to embed with a counter human trafficking organization that's rescuing kids, and then doing rehab with them as well. And then that's one of the bigger pitches, and now that's all about coordination. So that foundation also wants me to do media for them. So it's like a not double dip, but basically like, okay, because of my background, obviously I'm a filmmaker, cinematographer, but I'm also CIA static, not beyond my combat experience, because just because you have combat experience or your infantry doesn't mean you have kind of the protection experience. Like it's a different type of training. So I have all of the above. I've been shot at, I've been blown up, I've been in combat zones. I have extensive background, also working with special operations, and they throw that word around, but ran the gamut on that. Worked CIA static, had the clearances, also then was trained in WIPS mobile protection. That's probably one of the most important ones. So I was basically a VIP security for like John Kerry, all these guys way back in the day. I mean, this was
Yeah.
going on 10 years now. But, and then also my recent trip in Ukraine in 2022 after the invasion, as well as running missions with that. And then also this recent one. So anyway, so they're very much like, we're all cut from the same GWAT cloth. So that foundation's got a bunch of former Delta operators, but also a bunch of former Marine infantry guys, like door kickers. So they are looking. I got to get a meeting with them next week. I'm telling you this, but for a media proposal and work with their marketing team to figure out where I can step in, because the operations chief and like the owner are like, yeah, you're. They even offered me, like, he was like half joking, half serious, like, hey, you want to be one of our W9 operators? And I was like, oh yeah. I was like, well, I'll hold the camera, that's what I'm here for, and he's like, yeah, obviously, and so getting obviously good footage for, and create edits for galas. It's still about fundraising. It comes to nonprofits. You got to tell the story that's dramatic, and obviously saving children from sex trafficking and human trafficking is very dramatic. It's intense stuff, but you still got to raise funds for that. So they want to do more of that for this year. And obviously me and my background, they're like, yeah, well, we can send you in to some of these very austere environments. Haiti might be one. Uganda was one for sure. Central America they're looking at. So yeah, again, this is not like what I thought I'd be doing. I always wanted to do war docs for sure. And so Embed was phenomenal. I want to go back. God, I just need to get someone to pay me. My wife isn't by no means happy about it, but when somebody pays my full day rate for like 10 days, and with travel pay, man, it's a banger of a check coming home, and that's before editing. And then I'll edit my products because I'm, people really like my editing style. And so,
Hmm.
I'll make money on that. But then I get bogged down, man. So I haven't had a project since July of last year, which was Embed, but Embed took me all the way up into January. So,
Damn.
it's that trade off of like, well, I didn't get to shoot a bunch of anything else, and then I'd hop on other projects. Before that, I had a pretty good year. Last year was my best year yet. And, I got to shoot a pilot, shots with some other clients. Got to do underwater stuff as I always do with the one foundation I'm attached to for wounded veterans. And then Embed came along. I did get to do prep for a possible documentary, and I'm hoping it's still real, but we don't know. But somebody had contacted me about doing a skydiving documentary, about doing a breaking a world record. And so we were in talks for about a month, and that was pretty intense because I was like, I'm going to have to get qualified. We're doing it on the cheap, but this is what we call it when it comes to the digital technology, knowing what you can and can't do. The
Right.
the new Ursa 17Ks are now coming out now, but they had been announced, and that's damn near IMAX quality. 65 millimeter format, 18K or whatever. But it's not about the resolution; it's about the
Crop.
frames
Yeah,
of the
exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
actual sensor is
Yep.
actually 65 millimeter, I believe it was, or 70 millimeter sensor. And so it's not even just full frame 18K; it's 70 millimeter 18K. Now, I'm an Ursa guy. I have an Ursa G2. That's my workhorse. Like that's my,
Yeah.
that thing will take me another 10 years. Like, seriously, it's amazing. I love it. And if you know how to work your equipment, that it'll last forever.
Yep.
And that was the last piece of kit I bought. I'm looking at investing into Sony, but only mirrorless because I've been so light run and gun all of my last projects these last years that I keep renting the Sony A7S III, and so that's there it is. Is that it right there?
My baby right here. Well, one of
Yep.
them. This is the
See, that's
FX.
bigger. I don't even rig it out to that. I'm like a ND on the lens, and that's about it.
This,
you know
this
what I mean?
is this is how I rig it out if I'm doing something that's a little bit more involved.
Oh
Usually,
yeah, yeah, that I get. Yeah,
I
yep.
run a second FX3 that's just stripped right down for like being able
Yeah,
to
and
pull.
yeah. Last year I wrote, not this last year, but the year before that, I did a feature documentary for 3 weeks. FX3s were phenomenal,
Yeah,
you know.
sweet.
So I've been renting them so much that I could pay for them. They're already kind of paid for. So I'm just a little nervous on like the A7S III series because I feel like because you can buy them. I don't want to say cheap, but used they're like 2,500.
Yeah.
And so you're like, well, anyway, so yeah, so my projects, I got a lot of mini documentaries or basically, I don't want to say corporate work, but like cinematic corporate work documentaries. That's kind of like what I've been working on right now, or have my stream for streaming services, but then, episodic, but
Yeah.
then, it's, that's where the money's made. That's where, I think to me, there's a lot of that. Again, my network is out of Minnesota. I'd love to do more commercial stuff. I just, you got to get with an ad agency, and your network is very true. You're only as strong as your network, and my network is like YouTube mini docs, cinematic mini docs,
Sweet.
which is great. Honestly, it's a lot of trigger time, and you get to you are thinking on the fly for 7 days straight, and you got to come up with the best shot in the worst lighting conditions. So, I think it's always an awesome challenge. But like I have buddies here that have some commercial clients, so I'm trying to hop on with them here in Minnesota, and honestly, even just to like hop on set and just
Hmm.
be and to help, like just kind of get some more of that experience. But at the end of the day, again, it's what pays the bills. But I have a good friend. He just got back from as a producer. He works for a company. I think it's Yao Media, and they have some big rich financiers. So they've been making films. So they just made their second feature film for like I think like 2 million or so out
Damn.
in Thailand. But it was mostly a Thai crew.
Yeah.
It was a bit smaller. The first one was like 10 million, and he wanted me to be a cam op on that, and it was 2022, and I landed Nine Line Apparel as my client.
Nice.
So I knew Nine Line was going to be a long-term thing. So I had to turn down. He was like, don't worry, because we're friends. He was like, dude, just show up for a week. You can leave for a week and shoot the commercial for Nine Line and come back for I was like, dude, I can't leave the production as a main, A cam operator, halfway through and then come, you know what I mean? So he's like, all right. He's like, on the next film. So they ended up doing Thailand, and like no one was American. It was like him, a few people, and the DP were like American, and the rest were all Thai.
Dang.
But they wrapped it up though. And he's the one that like gives me hope, where it's like, even if it's not him, there's a lot of connection, in the industry where it's like, all right, like, yeah, let's do, I'll start with 100 million or a $1 million horror film, I'd love to do that type of stuff. And rule two, he always taught me, I love about my buddy is, he goes, never spend your own money, so, always spend someone else's money. So you get investors, and that you got to work with what you got.
True.
And the other thing too is, I still have, I don't say I hold out, I still have aspirations, delusions of, grandeur with $100 million films, but, it still feels very real to me. I think because, I'm sure you might feel the same way, as a filmmaker, if you want to make movies, don't give that up. Like people get weeded out. By the way, like I've talked to people, and it's weird. It boosts my morale, but it's a little disheartening sometimes when people have done it for 10 years and they're jumping out of it. I've met two people that have like actually directed, like they got documentary and then they directed like a feature film, like actually got it done, and with like some B-list actors, A-list actors, and they're just like, man, I think I'm out, and I'm like, man, but I think that's also the Hollywood approach, where you kill yourself over like a feature doc for like 6 years, and it's like your passion, or say you do like it took you 3 years to finally press record on a feature film, so you're a bit jaded and burned, where, and I'm sure, I'll probably hopefully I encounter it, knock on wood. I'd like to encounter problems like that. But, at the same time, like, hey man, like the money's there. It's not like, like either we do this or not,
Right.
Either this gets locked in or not, because I'm going to hop on this other project and I'm going to make money and I'll come back to this,
Yeah.
because I'm going to keep honing my skills, and it's taking me all over the world, and, that's what I like about filmmaking. The one guy when I talked to him, it was nice because he told me, he's like, do you want to make movies? I was like, oh yeah, yeah. But I was like, but I love filming, and he said that to me. He goes, yeah, I think I might be out here. If this doesn't work out, I'm gonna go back to whatever industry. It wasn't film, and then he told me, he goes, you'll keep doing this. You love film. And I was like, yeah. I was like, dude, tell me you want to make a fucking couch commercial, and I'll be like, yeah. Or be like, hey, let's make a documentary about making couches. I'll be like, holy shit, I'm in, like give me a bunch of HMIs. We're going to shoot light through these windows and we're going to make it look sexy as hell. So, or cinematic and dramatic. And all it is just making couches. But I think that love of craft, really, it drives me. I love being behind the camera, but yeah, for this year, those are the projects I'm looking at. Is it's basically cinematic docs, I won't say corporate, but that's kind of on the horizon. And then I'm writing some scripts, got pitch decks,
Dude.
I don't want to say clients on the back burner, but clients I probably should have emailed like a few months ago. It's one of those things where like I'm so busy, and then I'm like, dude, I need to email them back because I think they might want to do some commercials this year, because it's like one of those ones. They're like, hey, give us a call in January when we get a budget. Like we really want to work with you, and it's like, okay, so I probably should, there's a few of those clients I have, or potential clients that, they're $20,000-$30,000 projects, man, but that's 20, 30, 15, 20 grand in my pocket,
Yo.
so, it's,
Well, shit, man.
yeah.
If you ever need a guy, I know a guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
I got my
Yeah.
passport. I'm ready to travel. It's the kind of stuff
Yeah.
I like
Same
to do.
here.
So,
Same here, man. So
um,
what do you do? What do you, yeah, you do I've been talking myself here, but you do the guns and obviously guns and cameras, but what got you, how did you get into that space? Because we don't quite have that kind of community here in Minnesota, or maybe I need to find it, but, it's not like in Texas or some shit. You throw a rock and find a fucking tactical company, and gun nuts.
yeah, it just kind of happened. I straight out of college got a job as the senior graphic designer, videographer, photographer for an e-commerce company. So I was shooting like commercial stuff for Amazon products, right? Everything from kids like baby clothes to Segway scooters to freaking tower speakers for computers. Shooting photo videos for those, and then I wanted to move more heavily into commercial filmmaking, right? So took a job as the production manager for a startup marketing agency locally, and then went full throttle into like local TV productions. So I was directing and producing a couple of different food shows. I shot
Oh
some
yeah.
for a fishing show. And then it was like commercials for Adams Tractor, Ford, couple of local car dealerships, like doing commercial for local broadcast companies and all that kind of stuff. Did that for a while, and then I had a marketing agency reach out to me through social media, and the guy was like, "Hey, we like the stuff you're doing." He's like, "Would you be interested in whitelisting for us?" Because I was still working as the production manager at another agency in town for a local firearms manufacturer. And I guess their videographer that they had on staff had a felony, so wasn't able to go around into the gun shop. So they're like, "Do you want to do this for us?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I mean, I grew up in the Pacific Northwest, so hunting, fishing, guns were kind of a part of my
Yeah.
culture. And I was like, "Heck yeah, I'm gonna go shoot a gun
Yeah.
shop, definitely." Like, and then went down and started shooting for those guys. Eventually, they cut ties with the marketing agency, but they liked my work, so they worked with me directly once they fired the agency. And then through that one shop, I ended up just like local magazine or a magazine out of California came in because they wanted to shoot with. I had met Matt Booth, who's the owner of Room 101 Cigars and Jewelry out of LA.
Hmm.
He's local, so I shot some stuff for him. The magazine saw that stuff and they wanted to come out, so I negotiated a deal where I'm like, "Hey, you can have my photos to promote the magazine, but you got to come out and one, give us a one-page ad spot for the gun shop in your magazine, but then also feature the shop." So they came out, shot with those guys. I hit it off with the owner of the magazine. He's like, "You want to shoot for us?" I'm like, "Heck yes."
Yeah.
Alcohol, tobacco, firearms, man. That's what I'm about. So started traveling with them, and then from there, that's how I got connected with Two Lamb Ronin Tactics out of Denver. So I started shooting for them shortly after because Two and I hit it off. Old school kung fu
Hmm.
movies is kind of what connected us, and then I got to go down to South Georgia and interview and shoot Norm Hooten, right from Mogadishu, Black Hawk Down,
Yeah, I
right.
was gonna say, yeah, yeah, yep.
Got to capture his story twice. I got one version of it that's like at midnight. Everybody's, we're on a back porch of a plantation house, pouring down rain, smoking cigars, drinking whiskey, getting the uncensored stories from him. So I got some of those, and then I've got the official account. And so it's just been like it's from that one connection. It's just kind of steamrolled into this whole thing of like that's kind of my niche now is
Yeah.
is shooting the guns and again trying to capture that whole industry. Mostly because again like I got a lot in common with those guys, men and women both. It's like the people, men and women in the gun industry tend to be the most down to earth, real people you can meet. And so I kind of more or less after 2020 kind of committed social suicide in Spokane by just saying, "Hey, I'm niching into the gun market." And you
Mm.
would not believe how fast a lot of my commercial clients in Spokane cut ties when they found out I started shooting guns. I don't want to unpack that because I don't want to get too political about it. But it was like,
Yeah.
yeah, so that's kind of like it's just now become, you know, the stuff I like to shoot. I did like to. I was gonna say like I've been trying to get connected with the Sentinel Foundation because some of the guys that were down there in South Georgia that we were shooting with Norm were part of the Sentinel Foundation down there, and I'm like,
That's who I talked to. Yeah.
oh, right on. So yeah, you
Yeah, yeah,
guys. So
yep.
I got a challenge coin from them back here from that
Mhm.
that trip down there, and I'm like, man, I would love to be able to help support those dudes because that's where I want to move next. I got my first short form documentary that I'm self producing scheduled for June. I'm going to go down to San Antonio and interview a 20-year Army vet. His name is Paul Reifke. He got injured in Afghanistan, I believe, and then found archery. Archery was kind of his rehabilitation process. So I'm going to tell that story.
Mhm.
I'm trying to get more into acting and doing more on camera stuff because I enjoy
Oh,
it.
nice.
Did some
Yep.
commercial, done a lot of voiceover work, so I'm like maybe I'll try to do some more of that. But then also just move more into narrative film. I've done a lot of commercial stuff and it's been
Yeah.
super fun and it pays the bills, but I kind of want to do something a little bit different. So that being said, if you have projects, let me
Yeah.
know.
No, absolutely, bro. Yeah, especially with the Sentinel stuff.
Yeah.
They I know one of their operators from last year. Me and him, he went to the Warfighter Scuba Foundation. He's and he was like, hey, we're looking to possibly do some more media, and that was last year. So
Yeah.
these things take time, and then this year. they were, I can't remember what the impetus was. Oh, I was gonna actually ask them about the counter human trafficking for
Hmm.
embed actual. And so, and then that came into, yeah, we need media, and then it's very much background. You know, we all, like I said, run in some of those same circles. So
Right.
it was very, and Ferris was like, yeah, man, like this, and I showed him my work, and they were very much on board, for embed.
Yeah.
They want to actually do the series, so that's why it's kind of like it's just timing. So that might actually take place in June, possibly. They got some operations coming up. I don't know if I'll
Crazy.
be a part for either shoot for Foundation or shoot for embed.
Yeah.
So it's kind of in that weird, vet TV funding, is a bit tight because they're shooting a series right now.
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah.
yeah,
No, man. I just like pushing the
yeah,
gear. I like
oh
getting
yeah,
down and dirty and taking the gear out to know, into
hmm,
the deep dark woods. I'm like, yo, if you're gonna do something, don't do it for real, right?
yeah,
Take the gear there. The cameras now, you
hmm,
can take them just about anywhere.
yeah,
They're not too heavy. You can throw them in a pack. And so that's my kind of whole thing is I just like to be in it, right? One of my favorite movies growing up was the We Were Soldiers, right? Mel Gibson
great
and
film.
yeah,
Yeah,
and there's that dude that was a war correspondent, right?
yeah,
Got on the
yeah,
helicopter. I'm like, that's the guy I want to be, right? I want to be
yeah.
that guy.
Hmm.
Um,
I would say, well, it's tough. It's a bit different now. The
mhm.
Ukraine stuff. If you really want to get into it, you can. But
The thing is like
yeah.
now I have my wife and my children, and I don't think they'd
Oh,
be
I
able
know,
to deal
I
with
know.
that kind of stuff.
I'm this dude. I'm with you, man. My wife asked me that one time. She was like, "Would you have gone and like fought and did stuff, or?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah." I was like, I was like, if we weren't together, I told her I was like, if we weren't together, I'd be with those guys fighting in Ukraine. I was like, if we didn't have a Finley was 11 months old when I went the first time to Ukraine to help evacuate kids out of southwest Ukraine.
Well,
Coordinated the evacs. We were in Lviv and we got them on buses, and got them housed. But that was another NGO I was with. But yeah, I was like, I would have ran missions for like weeks or months at a time because I had gotten asked to go back because of my skill and also filmmaking too. That foundation that I was with was Aerial Recovery, and their guy had been there for like 3 months or like 2 months or something. He's like, hey, can you come? We'll pay you to do video, but you also can run missions like with your background. I was there as an operator, so they were like, and I told my wife because I had just gotten laid off, and she was like from Black Rifle Coffee, and she was like, no, absolutely not. Like, and then I got offered again with some other guys to do some other shady shit. It wasn't for media. It was running some equipment.
hmm.
And she was like, absolutely not. I was like, okay. I was like, I try, like I don't say I got job options. She's like, not like that. And but yeah, no, I agree with you, man. It's like, cause sometimes you're like, I think it's timing wise, it's like, oh, I got a camera and money and, but it's like, I also have two kids and a wife,
Yep.
and a mortgage and I think, yeah, I like what you're doing with you're doing your personal project. And there's times when I do think of that, but it's so tough. Like I said, you got two kids. So if you're doing a personal project, it's got to be really kind of pull you in or do make it worth that time that you're doing. Like I think the podcast for me is a bit more of I think I don't say personal project, but probably much more personal because I built the studio, because I'm using my money to fly people in.
Hmm.
I'm using money for marketing on YouTube. Like I'm calculating the guests, because I want it to in the next few months I want to be getting sponsors to break even.
Yeah.
I love doing it, but I'm with you though. There's another project I'd like to do to talk about visual effects. Use Unreal Engine for a
Oh
project
yeah,
that's
dude.
been put on hold um, um, to make a commercial spec, or you know what I mean, a little teaser trailer. But but I'm not learning Unreal Engine. Like I had a friend of mine go, "Oh, we should learn Unreal Engine." I'm like, I'm not learning it. I'm like, I'm past the time. I can I. People said I should learn DaVinci Resolve, and I probably should. That's the one program I should probably get into more. But I was like, I don't have the bandwidth right now. Let alone, my buddy was like, "Well, we should do Unreal Engine." I was like, I do not have. I will never have the bandwidth to do Unreal Engine, And I was like, I'm not in my 20s anymore. I used to try to do After Effects, and I went down that rabbit hole in film school because I had the time. But But I learned right away was like, you can't, to me, I couldn't do both. Like you either gotta go one path or the other with myself, because I'd rather hire somebody that knows After Effects really well than use my shit After Effects and lack in my editing time. So,
It takes up
yeah,
a lot of brain space. I back
yeah.
in the day, I'm a big After Effects guy. I love motion
Yeah.
graphics, right? I got deep down the rabbit hole with Blender, right? When
Oh,
I was doing
wow.
3D
Yeah.
modeling stuff, like I love it. But again, unless you live in it all the time, right? Because it changes so often. Every
Yep.
time there's a patch, it's like a totally different piece of software, right? And so for me, I've done it enough to understand it and respect the guys that can crash it out quickly. And I know enough to be able to get in and change up my effects. Like if I'm downloading I'll pull After Effects templates and I know enough about the software to be able to go in and write my own commands and change stuff around if I need to. But it's just extra time on a project, right? So yeah, dude, I get it. It takes up a lot of space. I love DaVinci Resolve. I went from Premiere to
Yeah.
Resolve. Worth learning how to do it just for the like once you get past the node tree thing, the color grading, like you just have so much more power, I think, in
Mhm.
that software. So that's all I
Yep.
work in now. But again, it's I was explaining it to a guy because I've been working at Stopbox for the last couple of years, or last year, basically, helping grow their one. I was their partnership manager and then a videographer for them as well. Shot a lot of the new stuff for them. But I was explaining to the team we were building there. I'm like, look, the thing is that it's the time, right? I know that I can edit something in Premiere before I made the jump to Resolve in 10 minutes, right?
Mhm.
Like I can do it exactly the way I want it to in 10 minutes. The motivation for me to take an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours to learn how to do the same thing in a new piece of software just so I can learn the new software is not there. I'm going to go with it's about efficiency, right?
Yeah.
And so I completely understand. It's tough when you're
Yeah.
efficient and quick in one thing to try to take the time to do something
Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
Um,
And I'm a one man band too. So like even my
yeah,
free time right now is valuable, because I spend all day today doing something I don't get paid at, which was making clips for my podcast. So high quality clips to put on YouTube. You know what I mean? Like, and then I
right.
have to go into Adobe Express, and I have a stream that's streamlined, by the way. Like I make it streamlined, and it still takes me all day to do 10 clips. And then I got to make the little thumbnail for Instagram to make it look cleaner. You know what I mean? Like there's a way to, to help kind of push, and I'm also sending stuff out on stories and like really pushing it to my buddies who are going to help me.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's my free time. And so even with Resolve, like there's some very powerful tools in Resolve. I wish that Premiere would just, it's like small things I wish they would integrate into Premiere.
Hmm.
And that's why people use Final Cut, by the way. Final Cut was, and I understood why people use Final Cut. I
Yep.
wasn't a fan, but I could at least edit a lot more proficiently. I've tried again, it's time. It's like right now, again, I can set up, and rip through an edit and be done. Like Resolve and like I just know Premiere like the back of my hand. And I agree with you. I think I think there's tools in it that I wish the node. I understand the node stuff, and I wish Premiere would do it. Like I don't know, it's like just it Resolve has it down to a T, which I get, but it's like, dude, the color grading's 1,000 times better than
Bro.
fucking than Premiere. But I just don't have
Yeah.
the time to be like, oh, now I got to take my project and throw it. It's like, because my clients, it doesn't matter. I shouldn't say it doesn't matter. As long as it turns out looking good, they're happy. They're not going to know the difference if I spend another week on Resolve or not.
Yeah.
But if you are in those higher end stuff though, and you have that budget, like I said, it's that trade off. Like I work by myself or in very, very small teams, but
Hmm.
I'm the writer, producer, director, editor. So I make a lot more money on my end, but then my projects are fewer because of my time now. One project takes me 3 months, but I'm getting paid for the whole gamut.
Yeah. I know
So
how
it's a
that
trade
is.
off. Yeah.
I operate the same way, so I know how
Yeah.
that is. My standards are very high. It's been hard because I tried to offload some stuff, the last couple of years when I'm getting projects coming in and I'm like, wow, my bandwidth, I'm at my max. I can't take on anymore, so I got to start farming it out. And I just haven't been able to find somebody that can like hit it the way it can't meet my standards for how I can. I work really hard. I've spent a lot of time. I've invested a lot of time. And like I had one client. I thought I found a dude. I'm like, this is the guy. This is the guy that's going to be helping me outsource my
Yeah.
edits to. And then I had one big project that I sent to him, and I had the client kick it back, and they were like, "You didn't do this." And like, we know
Oh,
you
so
didn't.
they could tell the difference.
Yeah,
They could tell the
they knew I didn't
difference.
do it, and they're like, this isn't up to your standards, and this isn't what we paid for. And I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
So pulled it all back, pulled an all nighter, co-editing with this guy, trying to make it, trying to save it. And I was just like, that was, it was enough for me to be like, hey, bro, like I'll use you on smaller stuff. But then it was like,
Yeah.
dang, like I can't.
Yeah.
So it's tough finding people that I can trust with
Yeah.
offloading my projects to. So that's the thing. Ethan, we're coming up on like 2 hours, bro.
Oh
So,
yeah.
but I have a couple more questions. There's one
Yeah, yeah.
question I know I got to hit you with for sure. This is
Yeah.
kind of a common thread question I ask every guest, and that is your oh shit moment question. We all have one. Could be good, could be a bad thing. You, I'm sure, have many from a lot of different careers over your lifetime. But when I ask you what your oh shit moment is, what is the first thing that comes to your mind?
Oh my God. Oh shit moment. Well, getting shot, that's an oh shit moment.
Yeah,
That's always a, for me, I'm trying to think. I know I've had some scary oh shit moments filmmaking. Typically it's like the nightmare scenario of like, I had a really big oh shit moment. I formatted a card on a drone, and luckily we had just started the day, and we had done like two or three of these like it was like during the day, and it was like the feature on the Inspires, like the new software on the DJI, where you could like set two waypoints, and then it would slowly, for the length of the battery, so it'd be like a time lapse, but they only last like 30 minutes, but it's like a time lapse. We did like one or two of those moves. And I was so used to like, we have our routine, and I've been working with my buddy for like 2 years at this point. So I'm like, and I just like, it was by habit. It was like we landed, but we only swapped batteries. And typically when he landed, he would swap SD cards. Like he had like 50 SD, you always back up. He called it gold. So he always backed it up. But this time he just swapped the bats, and he told me, but it was out of force of habit that I went and I formatted, and I literally formatted, and we got up in the air, and I went, fuck, like he was like, oh my God, what happened? Like he thought that the drone was going down. I was like, I just formatted the card. And he's like, and he was like the calm one, because I wasn't the, if I was you always play off each other. So if someone's freaking out, you be the guy that is chill. So he's freaked out before, and I'm like, hey, it's all right, we'll figure this out. Like I freaked out, and he's like, it's okay, man. Like he's like, that's our first two shots, we'll do them again. We have like 3 days at this festival. Don't worry about it. I was like, okay, cool. It was like, I think it was like some music fest in the Minnesota State Fairgrounds. So it was like 2 or 3 days long or some shit like that. So we redid the shot, but that was a big oh shit moment. For filmmaking. Yeah, I mean, and I've had some other oh shit moments. But yeah, in the Marine Corps, oh shit, I got shot. That was one. That whole thing happening. I know I've had others. I'd have to like, it's one of those things you put me on the spot. But yeah, that's the ones that immediately come to mind.
yeah.
Not recording. I think we've all had a lot of mini oh shit moments where you're like screaming inside. I always joke with new guys or with clients, and that after you get warm with them for a while, I always joke with their client, be like, hey, if you ever hear the DP or camera guy go, let's just do them for safety. It's because we forgot to press the fucking record. But yeah, I was like, it's because we forget the record button. And they started laughing, and I'm like, I've done that before, where we've done like 2 or 3 takes, and I forgot one take. And they're like, how'd that one look? Because you're on like the third take.
Yeah.
And, and I'm like, let's just do another one, so they'll fucking remember, like they're not going to remember day 3 of like, whatever stupid sketch they were doing. It was mostly like Black Rifle or something. I'm like, oh yeah, don't worry. Yeah, let's do another one. They're not going to remember, like they don't remember what the hell happened yesterday. So, but there's been a few times of like the oh shits for me are like not pressing the record button or something, oh, we got the shot. It looked amazing. And then you realize that
I think that's one thing I tell guys too.
Yeah.
I'm like, yo, here's the thing: is there's nothing, especially when you're working with a client, you always have a plan. There's never nothing wrong, right? So like, for me, there's always the one thing like where you forget the one cable you need.
Oh,
You know what I
dude,
mean?
yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
kind of like, oh, well, we had this whole piece of equipment we packed up and brought that we can't use because we forgot one of the cables. And so you have to try to internalize all of that panic and put on a face and go up to the client and be like, so this is what we're going to do. And everything's great and there's no problems.
Yep,
Everything is
exactly.
perfect.
Exactly. Oh, Shimona, I erased all my voice recordings from the Embed Actual series
Oh,
after we were finished. So I was deleting the preview files, because it's like an extra like 1,000 files, autosave files, and like it's actually like a few gigs worth of stuff.
yep.
Kind of slows the stuff. So I was backing up. The projects are done; they're all posted already, so it's not a big deal. But I backed up on 2 hard drives. 2 4 terabytes for backup to backup. I have a backup. I have it on my there's like 4 backups
Oh,
of
yeah.
the series.
Redundancy is
Yeah,
important.
redundancy. Yeah, so of the 3 episodes for Embed Actual, and I was so confident, and they stick. And I don't do voiceovers a ton. I started doing a ton now because of podcasting and the series. I did the voiceover, and I'm kind of the host of the show, so I'm narrating, and I did the narrations, and they auto save into a folder, but they're auto saved right next to the preview files. So it's like it says like Adobe Premiere auto records audio or something like that, and it looks exactly like the Adobe Premiere auto preview files auto save. So it was like right in the middle of all those, and I deleted them, and then I went to trash bin. I was like, don't need them for sure, and I deleted like hard delete. So like and I had time in the last few weeks. I've had like no time, so like it took me an extra like 2 weeks to get back to the voice recording, go through both episodes. Luckily, it wasn't a ton, and I had the finals obviously, so I took exact the same thing I said. I matched it up because obviously those files are missing, so that in the sequence they're already. So I knew the length, and it just took me an extra 2 days, and that was a big oh shit moment where I was like. Because it wasn't a big deal, but it was just like I gotta work more. I'm not getting paid for this. It's a simple backup, and now I've like created like 2 days of work
Oh,
for
yeah.
to do backup. So I guess that was probably my last oh shit moment, was deleting voiceover recordings for my series. But yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah, I know how that is. Awesome. One more question, and then we'll wrap it up for tonight. Is we kind of hit it a little bit, but what is one piece of advice you could give to somebody who's just starting out? Something that you know now that you wish you knew then.
Oh man,
What do you got?
I know now. I wish I knew then. Because there's like a fire hose. Man, I just knew then. Because there's a million different approaches you can go with that. Man, I would say. Wish knew now. I just knew then. I guess it kind of goes against a little bit of some principles, but I would say invest into if I knew what I knew then, I would have taken the money. And not saying I would have bought Reds, because I was like, oh, I need to buy Red cameras. But now I've been in the industry for 8-9 years, or been doing this. I would say buy a flagship camera with, and this is just my opinion, flagship camera with the 2G to the so I'd say like Sony or whatever, but like 16-35 and the 24-47 or 24-70 2.8s, because those two lenses and the flagship is going to get you everything you need in today's world. It was probably different 8-9 years ago, but even back then, I'm looking on that like, dude, you would have bought like a Canon 1D5X or whatever it was called.
Yeah.
It was their flagship. Dude, that thing had 4K one, because I'm a big slow mo guy. 4K full frame readout, or even a crop sensor. It didn't matter. 120 frames internal H.264. You know what I mean? And image, and I'm a big wide angle guy too. I'm a wide aesthetic. So that's my thing, is because if you are broke, and this is the thing, when you're broke, you at least have a flagship camera and 2 lenses. You can make you can make anything. You
Yep.
can make a feature film, you can make a feature doc, You can make commercials because it's all about how you use that camera. But that tool, though, is, you know, you can make it with a crappy tool or a good tool. You're still going to kind of get towards the end, but having the better tool is going to help you, you know, in the long run, or, you know, in the long runs, how clean the sensor is going to be, the dynamic range. But, you know, some people are like, hey, don't buy the gear, rent the gear. Honestly, because there's at points where, like, once you make that investment, because sometimes I was so broke at one point, and this is after I spent all my money. So, you know, I graduated film school. I'm like, oh, yeah, I could really use that 60, 70 grand that I had, you know, 2 years ago. But, you know, it's one of those things where, and I thought back then, I was like, oh man, I need a red or I need a whatever. But now that I've been in the industry for 8 years, because mirrorless, maybe because they're so versatile, someone starting today, buy a flagship. So, or the main video. So A7S3, FX3, but it depends if you do photography, then go with the A7S3. If you're more video focused, FX3. I don't think the A1s are worth it, or the A9 III or A9 IIs are worth it, to be completely honest with you. So not
agree.
those flagships, but R5C, buy it, invest, because, and also it's committing, like commit yourself to a cause, almost like get those. So you're going to spend 6 grand, you know, well, if you buy full price, 3,500, two, so you're at 7,500 bucks, man. So you're balls deep into it, and you need to make that money back, but it also frees you. So where you going? You go on a family trip, go take some cinematic footage. Go, you know, I go to Scotland, Ireland. It's a tax write-off. I'm gonna get some aerial footage of Mana Store. I got footage of or I take photos. I love doing photography. So, you know, but if you're starting out, you know, to me, I think that's because then you can do anything. You can rent the audio equipment or borrow. You can borrow, steal H6 audio zooms, or you know, invest into a DJI mics for like $300. You know, but you can do all that stuff now today. But I guess that might be a thing, because when you finish film school, sometimes people are just like, well, I don't have the camera. Like, I need somebody to pay me to rent, you know, even though I'm not, you know, sometimes you also got to take the free jobs and the free, or, you know, or the passion projects. Well, that passion project is, you just show, is time. So when you own your equipment, it's just time. It's no longer time and money. It's just time. Because sometimes you're so broke, you can't afford, you know, afford whatever you're going to rent, because you're, you know, but, you know, I think when kids pull out money for college, or if they're going through film school, dude, pull out that extra cash or loan and do that. Don't go crazy, but, you know, because if you're like, okay, I can do everything with this, then you can maybe upgrade to the next thing, Because, you know, I agree with you, man. Like, I've got the Ursa G2, and I haven't used it in a while because everything I've doing is A7S3. So I've been hesitant to buy any new gear. You know, I built this whole studio around me, you know, thinking I'm gonna, and I rent most of my stuff. I can't justify buying a new Ursa Mini, the new 16K, whatever. It looks amazing. I can't justify the cost. The only thing I can justify, I can justify the new A7, or buying a Sony, investing into Sony, but even then it's a little hesitant because I don't know what's coming around the corner. You know, but yeah, I think if I could, you know, go back, or someone starting new and I'm like, I tell them I wish what I knew now. I think that's probably the most that stands out, because you can always pull footage now and edit and learn After Effects. You can do that for free, or $30 a month, and you got a computer, you're off to the races. But physically creating your own thing, I think having two good pieces of glass, which for me aesthetically is the 16-35, and because then you can punch in, you're getting 2/8, or buy a 50 mil, 1.2, gorgeous lens. So go with a 60 to, you know, it depends on what you're shooting, but go, hey, 16-35, that's my opinion, and then a 50 mil 1.2, and just go and get as much stuff as you can, and you can do it anytime, anywhere, and it's always on your hip, you know, and an ND filter. There you go. And that's the last thing. ND filter, you know. So
That's great advice. You guys listen to Ethan, because he knows what he's talking about. Ethan, we're gonna wrap it up. What is some way, if somebody is watching this and they decide they want to work with you or hire you to do a project, what is the best way they can get a hold of you?
you can get a hold of me at ethannagelfilms.com, EthanNagelFilms.com, if you want to work with me. You can also just go to my Instagram handle, at ethan.nagel.films. That's also got my info. It's got my link on there. Into the Breach Show is the Into the Breach account for my podcast show. I like to call it a show because I'd like to expand it into other things. That right now, and then you can also go to ethannagelfilms.com. Wow, I can't believe the website. I have to like remember that. It's been a while since I've been. It's up and running. It's still going.
People still have
But
a website? I have a website still.
yeah, I got a website. So I think it's ethannagelfilms.com. That's how long it's been a while since it's still up. Every once in a while I check up on it. But yeah, that's where you can find me at. And yeah, Insta, YouTube, yeah, Into the Breach Show on YouTube. You can find me there. But yeah, that's shoot me a DM or whatever else, or LinkedIn, Ethan Nagel on LinkedIn, and go rock and roll, go
all the platforms.
go film.
Bro, this has been so fun. I super appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, absolutely. This is awesome.
I have so many more questions. We could talk for hours and hours
Dude,
and hours.
hit me up again, man. I actually appreciate talking film. I usually which is fine. I don't mind getting roped into the veteran community and all this other stuff. But yeah, I love talking movies or filmmaking.
Yeah,
so yeah, man, if you're guest bails on you, or if you're just like, let's do another one, just hit me up, man.
All right, definitely. I gotta get some return guests because I want to start doing some more stuff where it's like, hey, let's kind of niche into a specific topic, or just hit everything from the surface level again. But yeah, bro, this has been super fun. I super appreciate your time. You guys, this has been Guns and Cameras with Ethan Nagel. Thanks for hanging out with us. Stay tuned. We got a lot more great stuff coming. Have a good night. You guys, it is the end of this week's episode of Guns and Cameras. Thank you for hanging out and listening to the stories, the expertise, and the knowledge from Ethan Nagel, aka ethan.nagel.films on Instagram. He's also the host of the Into the Breach Show, so be sure to go check out his podcast. You guys, that's it. That's all I've got. This has been a great show. Thanks for hanging out. Remember, if you want to save on postage, there's always poison. Is that a llama? Hey, well, you guys, let's not wait till the next family reunion to get together. Thanks for hanging out. Have a great day.